Andrew Salciunas. This is Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Day one of training camp in the books. Day one of Sirianni-Hurts. And the drama, I believe, is in the books. We will be discussing about that all day today, and so much more was said. Sirianni, Howie Roseman, Jalen Hurts, a lot to react to. I'm excited for a freaking Eagles season. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
This is Kincade Salciunas.
This year, the 2024 Phillies rotation has pitched better than the 2011 Four Aces rotation.
And it's been a bunch of years since the team has had 3 pitchers with 10 wins before the All-Star break. This is historic.
Kincade Salciunas. John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas.
97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
And a good Thursday morning, Philadelphia. I'm Andrew Salciunas alongside my man John Kincade. Johnny, happy Wendy's Day.
I knew that was having the biggest smile on your face.
That's the only reason why I came in, man.
Other than the fact that we're actually going to start to get to some football.
Yeah, that's nice.
Which is always fun after yesterday.
Seeing some of the clips, the touchdown pass that drove the fans crazy that were at NovaCare, 35 yards in stride at Dallas Goedert.
I loved seeing the kids cheering like Saquon and Jalen coming out. The kids, I guess they brought in kids for camp. That was awesome.
They're cheering on a Madden super team. Like, think about it. Like, if you're playing with the Eagles on Madden, like if I'm going online and the opponent picks the Eagles, I'm going, screw you, dude. Like, pick a lesser opponent. It's a video game offense. So, of course, these kids must think it's awesome. I'm 30 years old. I think it's awesome. There's people probably double my age that think it's awesome because this team is supposed to be awesome, at least offensively, and I believe that they will be.
Yeah, there was a lot of there's a lot to like, and again, and it's not just on. I don't like this expression. It's not just on paper,
right?
Because these Philadelphia Eagles players, there's a lot more than paper to go off of. There's a lot of track record of great success.
I mean, you just add Saquon. Like, honestly, 2 years ago, it's the same it's still A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert, and Jalen Hurts. It's the same offense that got to a Super Bowl. It's the same offense that went 14-3. So, to your point, and we talk on paper all the time because it's July, so we kind of have to use that term.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. Like, it's not like they haven't done it before.
Like, I don't consider that on paper.
Right.
I consider that as you know what I consider on paper? When a team looks good and you got a bunch of guys who maybe they've done it 1 year. Or maybe they've not done it at all, but they're a high draft pick. Or maybe this is completely different. This team, there is a lot to like about what they've set up, and I can't wait to just see it start to evolve.
Yeah, I can't wait to just talk football, and we will do that today. But I do want to get this out of the way first because we all knew what we were waiting to hear during the press conferences yesterday. Mainly Jalen's press conference, I think. We were waiting to hear what he had to say about Sirianni because as we've talked about numerous times, Nick Sirianni publicly has had the back of Jalen Hurts where it may not have been the same when it came to Hurts having the back of Nick Sirianni.
Oh, it wasn't.
But, of course, Nick Sirianni was the first person to speak yesterday. He and Howie Roseman split the podium. Howie found a way to get in there a couple of times.
I have no idea why Howie Roseman was a part of that.
The first question that he answered, he said, I was waiting for, when I was going to get a question.
Why am I here?
Like, come on, man. Nick Sirianni, he steps up to the podium right away. He's asked about his relationship with Jalen Hurts. Take a listen to his answer.
Only thing you can judge your relationships on is your personal interactions with people, not any report that comes out. And, Jalen and I's relationship is good. It's, again, you just can judge it based off of what your personal interactions are. And so when you hear a report like that, you don't put much stock into it because, quite frankly, not everybody sees that. So I'm so excited for him and I to get into fourth year together. We've done some pretty special things, and I'm really excited for him. He's worked so hard at his game. I'm excited for him to be able to get back out here today and have a good practice today. And just looking forward to continuing to work with him and continue to build on the special things that we've done.
So, nothing groundbreaking. The only thing that didn't happen, you lost your bet. He did not say, I love Jalen.
Yeah,
so
he didn't.
Does that mean we have a problem between coach and quarterback?
No. I will say this, though. Bull on a lot of it. But it's over. I mean, it's over.
Bull on what?
The idea, well, don't base it on reports.
Right. I got you.
Stop it, coach. Stop. Stop with the making it because when you start talking about, don't base it off reports, you then start saying, well, they're all lies.
Right.
Everything's been perfect. Everything's been perfect all along. There's been no problem. These are just reports. Don't pay attention to them. Coach knows better. I expected more out of Nick Sirianni.
Really?
Yeah, I expected a better prepared answer than that. I think
he wanted to get it out of the way. He spoke glowingly of Jalen Hurts for 30, 35, 40 seconds of it. But, I mean, do you think anything else was bad in that answer? I think it was a fine answer.
No, I thought it was good, except that I said it just called bull on when you start portraying it as, well, when there are reports, don't believe reports. BS, coach.
Well, Jalen
there was a problem.
Said that yesterday, too, when he said,
that's why
you guys don't know, we don't know.
I was holding off on that one. They both had months to prepare for this.
Yeah, they did. And I thought
they didn't.
I thought Jalen was fine. Jalen Hurts literally stopped the question so he could just get it out of the way.
Okay.
Right? We'll take a listen. Here's Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, right when he stepped up to the podium, he didn't even let the reporter finish the question. He just wanted to get this one out of the way. There was another point that we'll get to, but here was the first response, as we all knew. I told you, first question better be about the head coach thing, not about anything else. Don't tell me, how do you like Kellen Moore's offense? No. What's the deal with Nick Sirianni? Here's his answer.
Let me say this first. You go through an off season. You put a lot of work in. I think all the things that we've been through last year, all the opportunity we had last year. I know everybody's hungry. Everybody's hungry. There's a ton of opportunity in front of us this year. And I'm excited to be back. Excited to go through this journey and go through this season with everyone here. From everyone. And I truly trust Mr. Leary. I trust Howie. I trust Coach Sirianni to lead us in that right direction. And I know there are different roles in place. Everybody has different responsibilities. There may be more demands from some than others. But I think to win championships, to be the team we want to be, everyone has to buy into their role, and everyone has to, be fully committed to doing their part and helping the team. And so I'm excited to go on that journey. I feel like for me as a player, as a leader, everything that we went through last year, I just feel like I'm equipped to handle whatever's to come. And so I'm excited to, forge whatever this year's supposed to be.
So he didn't
answer it.
Answer the question. Well,
and
he didn't let the question be asked.
And to me, that's the most ridiculous part. And again, I would play that from my class. In fact, I saved it. For next year, I can play that. That is a defensive player who is nervous about what they're going to say.
Probably.
So they literally cut somebody off before they even get to ask their question, because they know they just have some pre-prepared gobbledygook that they're going to spit out. Look, to me, I just put my hands in the air and go, it's over. It would have been, I don't know how. I could ask college kids, very simply, to answer a simple question of what would you do in this situation, and I think they would do better than both Sirianni and Jalen Hurts did yesterday.
Well, Jalen Hurts was eventually asked again because, like we just said, he didn't really answer the question.
He didn't.
He did say that he trusted Coach Sirianni, and he talked about how what happened last year, he can learn from it. I think that's.
I like that part.
Yeah, and I think everybody can learn from it. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of parts but it didn't really answer the question, right? Like
exactly.
That didn't answer the question of, hey, how are you and Nick Sirianni doing? He was followed up with that again later on in his press conference. Take a listen.
It's fine. It's talking on the things that we need to talk about together, And when it comes to Kellen, I talk to the things I need to talk about with him. But I think you guys have known me well enough and have gotten a feel for me better enough to know that anything and everything that I do is for the betterment of the team, and that's trying to win. And so I think if everybody has that mentality within their role, then we'll be fine.
And I wonder.
I believe him, by the way. Everything that I observed when he was a college kid in the SEC, everything that I've observed or heard or watched, I believe his answer. I believe he thinks every single day, I'm going to do something to try to improve me, improve my team.
Right.
I think that he, like every other human being, had failings in some of the ways that he handles things. I think the Sirianni thing was very childish. But I do not doubt for a second his commitment to every day showing up, trying to get better, trying to make his team better.
And I do wonder that, remember, the initial story that started this all was the Tim McManus article the day that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers playoff
And
game.
it was
Hurts is unhappy with the direction of the offense. He wanted to do certain things that Nick Sirianni didn't want to do. And I think we took that as beef right away. And look, maybe there is. Maybe it was a contentious meeting with him, Nick Sirianni, and Brian Johnson, and Nick Sirianni didn't want to hear Jalen out and said, do the offense that I believe.
What I'm
this
doing.
is what's worked. Remember, he said that in the podcast with Jeff McClain.
That is correct.
Last year that, hey, this has worked for 2 years now, where instead of changing, we're just going to keep on doing what we're doing. Maybe Jalen Hurts had a different opinion on that. And when you hear in that clip, he talks about, I'm just trying to do whatever it is for the betterment of the team. Maybe he goes to Nick Sirianni and says, hey, I don't think this is working. Let's try to do this instead. And then when it's denied, potentially, I don't know what that was said in that meeting, that led to the story coming out from ESPN on the day of a playoff game. But maybe Sirianni didn't want to do what Jalen Hurts wanted to do, and maybe that's what led to some beef between the two of them.
I believe this for a long time, and I'll say it again. I think Nick Sirianni was I think that Jalen Hurts was too close. The whole Brian Johnson situation was a huge miscalculation. Getting a job for somebody because they're close to your family and a friend. Not that the guy's unqualified to be in the NFL
Right.
or be a coach, because he's done some nice work in his career.
Absolutely.
It was not that was not the right team at the right time. You took a Super Bowl team and you handed the keys to a completely unproven commodity. And
on both sides of the ball.
And my guess is that Nick Sirianni was probably feeling a bit ganged up on when
maybe
Brian Johnson and Jalen, Jalen was not happy reportedly that Brian Johnson was sort of scapegoated.
Right.
Okay, he's probably feeling a little defensive about it. And look, I'm just glad that it's done.
Right.
I'm glad we
knew what was coming yesterday.
I'm glad that it's done because honestly, I'm fatigued by it.
Right. Now, of course
I'm fatigued by it, and I'm fatigued that it wasn't handled by adults better from the beginning.
Right. I wish it was done in OTAs.
Correct.
And not during training camp.
It should never have dragged on. It would have been really simple, and it was passive-aggressive that it was.
Absolutely. But at least it's done.
I feel better.
Right?
It's done.
Exactly. It's done and over with.
It's done.
So here's our question to start today's show, and we always love hearing from you on the text line and our phone line at 610-632-0975. Our YouTube commenters, good morning YouTube, Twitter, you name it. Do you believe that the issues from last season are done, or will they linger? And I don't mean issues just Hurts and Sirianni. I mean any issue that you can think of. There was 2 months of issues, right? It wasn't one thing that led to the collapse of the Philadelphia Eagles. Not one thing. I always say this. I'm serious about it, but I joke around. Like, as bad as the linebackers were, a bad linebacking crew can't make you go 1-6. Like, there's got to be a million things that have you go 1-6 and then not show up to a playoff game. Have guys seemingly make business decisions on the field. Kevin Byard, he's not here anymore. Will the issues from last season linger, or do you think a lot of stuff was put to bed yesterday? Do you think stuff was put to bed during the offseason with some players that were not brought back? Like Hassan Reddick, because remember that story that maybe that was who Fletcher Cox was talking about?
I believe he was.
Who Josh Sweat was talking about, players doing what they want to do and not necessarily. Yeah.
Freelancing for stats.
And we see what's now going on in New York where he is holding out despite saying during his introductory press conference that regardless of the contract, he's happy to be there and he's going to be the best teammate that he can be.
Well, we know now.
That he's not showing up.
Hassan had no interest in doing exactly what he promised he was going to do.
So everything that sucked over the last 2 months that we have pointed out, that we have complained about, I would like to guess that they know that Sirianni knows it, that Hurts knows it, that Howie Roseman knows it, that every player that is still here from last season know it. So I want to ask, do you believe that issues from last season will linger, or do you think it's been all put to bed since the day the season ended to yesterday's press conferences? Would love to hear from you, 610-632-0975.
And your gut
John?
instinct is?
Yes.
My gut instinct is that I don't think they have a great relationship. I don't think they have a great relationship, but I don't think they need to have a great relationship.
Right. We just want it to be professional.
Professional. Conduct yourself like professionals.
I think pettiness was put to bed yesterday.
I think pettiness is, I think enough people have shown light on it.
Right.
That the two of them have been like, and I wouldn't be surprised. I said to you before, Kyle Shanahan, in my career, I watched Matt Ryan and Kyle Shanahan have a public feud. Mm-hmm. And Mr. Blank, the owner, came out and said, right to me on a microphone, I brought them both into my office and said, you two need to start acting like grown men.
Which is awesome. And I hope Howie and Jeffrey Lurie did the same thing.
And it was, by the way, it was over.
Right.
The minute he did that, it was over.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know that Jeffrey Lurie didn't do that, but look, I'm just fatigued by it all. I'm so glad we can talk about this team and their football chances.
Right. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
So here's what I want to play. I want to play 2 more clips for you in this first segment. Then I want to get more of your reaction as the show goes on. There were 2 answers, one from Sirianni, one from Jalen Hurts, that I believe play into my question, our question, and our, I think, similar response that a lot of things is put to bed. Here's Nick Sirianni from a football standpoint, and you wrote this down. You saw the look in my eyes when he said it. Once again, vindication. Here's Sirianni talking about learning from past mistakes.
Even staffs that have, the same play caller, they tweak things year in, year out, right? Because if you stay still in this league will catch up to you quickly. And so, as far as the percentage or anything like that, we are working to do what we do best. So, like I said, there's things that, there are things that we've done well in the past that we'll continue to do. There's things that are going to be new tweaks and new things completely. And like I said to you guys, I think I said this after, as far as a play may look exactly the same on tape, right? You may say, okay, I'm looking at this play. Oh, I saw them run that play a bunch last year, and they ran it a bunch this time. But sometimes you're coaching it a little bit differently, and that's evolving as an offense. That's that happens even when you have the same a similar staff, But there are people that are same on the staff, right? The tight end coach is the same. The running back coach is the same. The assistant head coach, who's Kevin Patullo, is the same, right? The wide receiver coach is the same. The offensive line coach is the same. TJ's moved up in his role to assistant offensive line coach. So there are a lot of similarities in coaching styles and coaching staff, and some of the things that we're doing with little tweaks here and there.
So
spit it out.
Yeah, just spit it out. It's amazing.
God sakes.
But basically, the point of that clip is he realized that he can't do the same things that he did last year. He realized
he didn't admit it.
Right.
But he said it, and I admire the fact that he said it because it's completely contrary to what we could have played from last year.
Yeah.
When he was like, look.
Nobody stopped our offense.
People have to stop us. Well, they stopped you.
Yeah.
And I admire the fact that they had a different game plan this offseason, whether it was dictated by Kellen Moore or not, whether it was dictated by Jeffrey Lurie or not.
Right.
I admired the change in direction. I like to hear that that's the change in direction. And you could tell the Christian McCaffrey Manning cast appearance.
He knew the play.
Pissed him off because he said, people can look at our plays on tape and say, I've seen them run that before, but now we coach it up different. We did. He was that's still obviously under his skin.
Well, especially when Christian McCaffrey literally calls the play in real time before it happens. It became predictable. His own players.
And that was before the December meltdown. That was before.
Was it really?
Yeah, that was before the December meltdown.
And I remember the first report, the first time there was ever a, unnamed source that came out. First, Derek Gunn reported that there was a player on offense that said we've become too predictable. And like you said, that was before the meltdown as well.
Oh, wait a minute. Excuse me. I'm incorrect. That was the Seattle game. It was the Seattle game Manning cast.
Okay, so it was after the San Francisco game. But before that, I think it was the San Francisco game where there was the report from Derek Gunn that somebody offensively said that this offense has become too predictable.
You knew exactly what it was.
But I'm glad that they're working on these things.
And to me, again, self-awareness is fantastic, and I give Nick Sirianni credit for it. I do see growth there. But more importantly, I'm tired of hearing. I mean, It would take him 100 words to say happy birthday to the second.
Oh, my God. Yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, it's just, he's going to read the depth chart of coaches. Stop, coach.
But that's Nick Sirianni,
I don't know how
man.
he's not coached up more.
That is,
I don't know how.
Hasn't gotten better. He brought up core values unannounced yesterday.
Yeah,
he loves his core values.
Loves them.
All right, so coming up next, I'll play you two more things in the spirit of admitting mistake or fixing wrongs. Jalen Hurts, that was from a football standpoint, Sirianni. Jalen Hurts had like the team messaging standpoint, the message to his teammates this year, which I absolutely loved. You're going to want to hear it. Also, Howie Roseman admitted mistake.
He did.
You'll hear them both next. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5. On Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Going to play some more audio for you coming up in a few minutes. Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts, Howie Roseman, Saquon Barkley spoke yesterday. It was a great day. It was day one of training camp. It seemed like all the fans that were there were having a great time. It seemed like the players were having a great time, except for Mekhi Becton, who threw up reportedly 10 times yesterday. That's all. So a rough day for Mekhi Becton, but it seemed like a good day for everybody else that was on the field for the Eagles. But Connor, I want to ask you, our question today that we would love to get your reaction on the phones and the text line, 610-632-0975. All the issues that you know of, that you've heard of, that's been reported, that you saw with your own eyes, like I'll say Jalen Hurts' lack of speed last year, right? Because you could tell when he couldn't hit the edge anymore and beat defensive ends. Clearly he was lingering with something. Do you believe that the issues from last season will linger, or do you think all of it, or at least majority of it, was put to bed from day one of the offseason to yesterday? Connor, I know you already kind of ignored what was going on. Hearing those clips that we've played so far, did that make you feel any better, any worse, indifferent? Would love to hear your response.
I think we're cool, man.
Okay.
Now, I'm a sports minimalist. I need the baseline of what you need to win games. Doesn't need to be flashy, doesn't need to be perfect. Like, if you can get to where I think your team deserves to be, that's good enough for me. And I don't need them to be buddy-buddy. Like, I don't need them to be best friends, having dinner. Like, Jalen's having Thanksgiving over at the Sirianni household.
Just like Carson Wentz and Golden Tate.
Right. And the reality of the situation is, right, there are probably, we don't get it as public as we've seen with these reports that have come out, but I'm sure there are plenty of players across the NFL that don't like a coach, don't like a player they play like right next to, don't like other guys in the locker room. If you can say what Jalen Hurts said about, hey, I talked to him about what I need to talk about, we're good, we're doing what we need to do to make this team as good as possible, I'm going to do everything I can to help the team win, I know he will as well. That's all I really need to hear. If this is a working relationship that produces results, I don't care if you like him or not.
Right.
I care if you like him enough that this team can win, and it sounds like that they're at that spot. So I'm good with this.
I think that's what we needed to hear. Like,
yes.
I don't. To your point, I don't need them to be best friends. Like, no. I remember listening to the best show ever. They were saying, "Oh, they want them to hold hands." Like, no. I just want them to have a respectful relationship.
How about professionalism?
Right. That's it.
If there was how about this? Anyone go to work this morning as they're driving to work, or one of us, they bring in a new executive to represent our station or our company, and we go on the air, and we're asked about them, or we get an interview situation, we're asked about them, and we do what Jalen Hurts did to his head coach. We look seriously. You're not being a team player. You can find something. It takes 2 seconds to be kind. And yesterday, Jalen did enough.
Yeah.
And more importantly, enough. It's over. It's so, hopefully, we don't have to deal with drama that is self-created.
Absolutely.
And by Jalen and Coach, both yesterday referring to, don't believe reports.
Yeah, I know.
That is such a load of crap from both of them. I'm disappointed that they went that route. But you know what? Turn the page.
I'm kind of not.
Well, no. Reports didn't create it.
Well,
they created
I know
this.
what happened, but not everybody knows what happened. And we look at things a certain way.
So they tried to make you believe that it was reporters creating it where it was not.
Sure.
That is factually incorrect.
Okay, that's fine. They say factually incorrect stuff to us all the time behind a microphone, and we don't have knowledge of it, so we don't get... Like, here's the thing. We know better because we're in the media, and we deal with stuff like that. We have a better knowledge of this stuff than I think the average Eagles fan because we know people who make these reports. I think there is a portion of the fan base who, when they hear Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts say that, it does calm them down a little bit. They're like, okay,
especially
we can
because
write that off.
misleading.
There's
It
always
is misleading.
But to Connor's point, I always joke around the evil media, right? Like,
Right.
there's a lot of people that don't like the reporters in the
Like
city.
that damn Jeff McClain.
Yeah,
Jeff McClain
how
hates
dare
the
he
Eagles,
be
and he's out.
How
He's
dare
out.
he be unbiased and
Jeff
not
McClain. They want him creating his content while they're shaking pom poms as he types. It's ridiculous. But more importantly, Connor, I subscribe to the don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining.
Yeah, I know.
And that's exactly what both of them did yesterday when they tried to spin it as, well, don't believe reports.
I'm not saying
listen
you're
to
wrong.
us. It was a real story that they created, mostly Jalen Hurts created.
But some people are going to dance in that rain, and that's something that they'll take the chance on. Like, honestly, we get lied to all the time by coaches and players.
Yeah,
all
the time.
Scheme, relationship, what's
competitive
going on.
advantage, man. Sometimes Nick doesn't even answer the easiest questions.
Right.
And then just spins it into the core values somehow.
So if we're in a situation where we may truly never know the nature of this relationship in full, and they want to deny to try and make it easier for them to move past this, I can't fault them on that, whether I know the truth or not.
And we did say, John, just lie to us. We don't care. Just lie to us. And maybe they did lie to us by saying don't believe the reports. But it seems like we're all on the same page here. We're glad that it's done and over with, and now we could just focus on freaking football. So, Jalen Hurts yesterday. It wasn't just about his relationship with Nick Sirianni. There was a whole press conference that Hurts was being asked questions for, and I loved this answer. I told you, again, the question is, do you believe that the issues from last season will linger, or do you think a lot of it's been put to bed? Nick Sirianni, we played it. He admits that, well, doesn't really say it, but let's face it, you read between the lines. He admits that certain things can't continue. He can't just run the same offense out there and expect the same result because the highest paid defensive minds in the world are defensive coordinators and head coaches of football teams, and they can see, oh, wait, they're running the same play they ran 2 years ago. We're going to be able to stop that. So Sirianni admitted to doing certain things in the past. You just can't continue it. Jalen Hurts went more of of course he did, deep-rooted messaging response. Take a listen to what Jalen Hurts had to say about his message to the team.
Yeah, I think we're in a great place. I think anytime you have any frustration, anytime you have any adversity that you have to overcome, it's supposed to test you. And I think it's a matter of being on the same page. And I think if we're on the same page, we maybe would accomplish the things we would have. And, we didn't, but that's a learning experience. And I think it's as simple as if I made it happen, I can make it happen. And this team has made it happen before, and there's no doubt that we can make it happen again. But it takes what it takes, and it takes being together. And my message to the team after we did our conditioning test, and even after our first day of practice, in which I thought was a good day of practice, but talent. I've been on very talented teams. My pretty much my whole career I played around talent, and talent wins you games. It'll take you very far. But it don't last. Teams is what win championships, and that's what we're trying to do. Trying to take that next step. And so it'll be an exciting journey. I think it was a great first day. It's just starting out here, getting the juices flowing. Humid out here today, but it was good having the fans out there, and just being able to write a new journey for us.
I love that answer. It was too long, but I love the answer. And I love the messaging.
Like, I know it's a bit cliche, but it's true.
But he did take ownership, too, of that the need for communication, the need for everybody being on the same page. He's speaking cryptically, but I don't think in that answer, Connor, I don't think he shielded himself from partial blame.
No, I mean, he straight up said
that was good.
He straight up says, and
I've been on teams that have been really
talented, but we don't win. And I've said this. I said this last season. It was a realization that I had after the Eagles lost to the Buccaneers, or maybe even before. I forget when I said it. That talent doesn't always prevail. Like, I had that realization. How many times have we talked about, oh my God, look at all the talent on this team, and they end up losing games? Like, I saw the Miami Dolphins score 70 points in a football game. Like, I've never seen that in my life, John. And they can't win a playoff game because they might not be a great team. Because remember all the reports once Vic Fangio left, every single Dolphins player bitched about Vic Fangio. They may not have been a great team. Talented, for sure. We know that Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, Devin Achane, Tua Tagovailoa.
A lot of talent on that team.
Very talented. But they may not be a great team.
I like to me, when I look at what the Eagles are talented enough that I absolutely say, look, January, we got plans.
Right.
We got plans. We got plans in the middle of January to start a playoff run no matter where it's going to take us, whether it's wild card weekend or divisional playoff weekend. But it doesn't mean you're going to win when you're going up against the best teams on the biggest stage.
Right.
And I thought that was a lot of self-awareness. I think Jalen took us a little bit behind the curtain there, and I loved that answer. And if that was his message to his teammates and he didn't shield himself from being a part of it, I really, really like that.
This team last year was very talented.
My gosh. And this year.
And that's why they won 11 games off of just kind of going out there.
And is this year, it's better, right?
It's more talented, and I hope more put together.
There's much more. How about this? There's much more upside. I looked at the Dork Boy yesterday while I was a little bored with that Phillies game as I'm watching it. I looked at last year's training camp roster, the beginning, versus this year's. Mm-hmm. This year's team is more, to me, much more upside than last year's.
Okay.
Upside. Potential.
Right.
That requires coaching.
Yeah.
That requires focus. That requires everybody being on the same page.
And being together.
I like the messaging.
It was a great message.
I'll just have to see it in action.
And, oh, by the way, we've talked a lot about Jalen Hurts needing to be a leader this year.
Yep.
That's a check mark right there in the leadership
I think that was.
box,
I like
man.
that. Yes, absolutely. That was a great answer. I almost wish that's the one he started with. But he cut off.
Well, because he cut off the question. He knew what was coming with the Sirianni.
Yeah, I've never heard a player cut off the first question of a press conference like that. I've never ever heard that.
I'm sure it's been done before.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Guys make opening statements before too.
Yeah, right. But the thing is, it wasn't an opening statement. It was open for questions.
I know, but you knew,
similar.
Like, it had been 2 months. And I know people like to think that Jalen Hurts lives in his own world and he hasn't heard anything that anyone said.
He knows everything that
he knows
said.
everything. And, oh, by the way, there's a PR staff that lets them know everything that's being said. So he was ready to go for that first answer, whether you liked it.
I love that last answer.
Yeah, that last answer
lot.
was tremendous.
That was classic.
Now, also, speaking of admitting mistake, because we're in the spirit of it, right? It's all right to say my bad. You're still good, right?
Sure.
Like, if you're still a great player or a great coach or a great executive, it's okay to say my bad. Yesterday, Howie Roseman talked about the cornerback position and why this offseason was a focus on that.
We'll see. Obviously, we got to go with what we see here going forward. We brought in a lot of new people into our secondary. We thought it was an area that we had to address. I'm really excited, again, to see those guys go out and play. I think, I didn't do a good enough job last year fortifying the secondary, and it showed with our depth. Our best teams have had our best depth with our best players. And I'm ready to call plays in hostile environments after this press conference.
Like Connor doesn't always have his best show.
Yeah,
but that doesn't
rarely,
mean we
honestly.
think. But that doesn't mean we think Connor sucks. I mean,
right.
I love that too, though. Howie never that people that will rip on Howie Roseman. Almost all the time, I hear Howie Roseman own and say, like, I didn't do a good enough job with this.
Yeah.
I missed that.
I also think
he's gotten better.
Because,
no question.
Because Jalen Reagor was not his fault for like 3 years.
Oh, no. Yes.
All right. He has gotten a lot
better with it. And that's what I'm hoping.
I give him a lot of credit.
And that's what I'm hoping Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts do also.
Absolutely. Coming up next, we get your text reaction. The first time on the show today, our question, do you believe that the issues from last season, will they linger? Are they all going to be put to bed, or are there still going to be a few things that you're going to be paying attention to? It's okay that you do. Let's talk it out. 610-632-0975. Also want to go through some of the other storylines from camp. because it wasn't just talking about mistakes and talking about beefs. Some storylines from camp. There was a lot of them. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Bob Cooney.
The only reason why
yummy.
I came into work, man. Can't wait for my breakfast burrito.
What? The only reason you came in?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Oh, seriously. You guys are second on my list at this
Diana
point.
Rossini just called me. There might be a relationship problem in there.
I mean,
I know
seriously.
the relationship is love. Me and
you're
a
in love with the
burrito.
burrito.
that's the relationship.
Seriously.
No shot at you guys. It's the guy in the meme that's looking at the other girl walking by, except it's a burrito for me.
Man, if Jalen Hurts said the only reason he came to camp was the water ice, you would have been mad at him.
I'd probably be okay with that one.
Did they have the readers out yesterday?
Probably.
imagine.
That's a
So
good go-to
humid.
for them. Yeah, it's a go-to.
Yesterday was really humid.
So it's a Wendy's Thursday morning, which means once an hour we have a $50 Wendy's gift card to give away to you. So let's do it right away. John, give me something other than 7. Come on.
5.
5.
We'll always love you.
I'll do 7 again later on for you.
There you go.
Caller
will always love you.
Caller number 5 to the contest line, 215-263-0975.
Our favorite Eagles quarterback of all time.
Absolutely. We'll win our first of 4 $50 Wendy's gift cards for a whole new way to nug. Try Wendy's new Saucy Nugs today. Open till midnight or later at participating U.S. Wendy's. Hours may vary by location. Caller number 5, 215-263-0975 will score gift card number 1 worth $50.
Every time we say do you get the same email from the guy who gives us grief about McNabb?
No.
Oh, the guy sends an email every single time. You guys sound so ignorant with this McNabb stuff. There's one quarterback who's won us a Super Bowl. It's Nick Foles. Donovan McNabb's the greatest quarterback in Eagles history.
Greatest, but
Yes.
Nick Foles is my favorite.
Yeah.
Nick Foles is freaking awesome.
He can be your
I mean, we
favorite.
love him.
But
and
we
it's
can all
great.
be honest that
But it's
Donovan
the
McNabb
greatest
was the greatest.
quarterback
Yeah.
in Eagles history is Donovan McNabb.
And we hope that Jalen Hurts can surpass that.
I think Jalen has a good chance to do so.
I do as well. All right, before we get to the text line, there were other notes from training camp.
Interesting.
I only trust the reporters that are actually there.
Yes, not the ones that
Live in different countries and somehow say my reaction to camp today.
or
Even
TB12's Dove Kleiman.
Dove Kleiman, yeah. So I saw this tweet from Zach Berman. Day 1 starter notes. Tyler Steen was at right guard. We heard Sirianni say that in the press conference yesterday, that there is no depth chart, but
Yes.
that Tyler Steen would run with the ones yesterday.
By the way, they did have depth charts previous years. They do not.
Because I think there's more competition this year, John.
No, but I mean, it was a conscious decision, and I don't know if it's Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore saying, "Let's do things," or maybe Stoutland. Maybe they decided to do it as a staff, but they have had depth charts before.
Out of all the things I hated last year, one of my biggest problems was Reed Blankenship being named the starter on day 1 of camp with no competition.
even if you don't think he has competition, you don't have to say it.
An undrafted free agent that played 4 games.
I mean, his nickname is Ed Reed Blankenship.
Yeah, no,
he deserves that position,
That is
Andrew.
not his nickname.
That
There's
is
just
not.
people that call him that for no reason. But Tyler Steen was at right guard.
They wear flip-flops.
Yeah.
I know that.
I love you, bro.
Love him.
Mekhi Becton was actually at left guard yesterday, but Landon Dickerson was absent. I don't know why. We'll ask Andrew DiCecco about that coming up at 8:10. Zach Bond and Devin White were the linebackers,
Yes.
not Nakobe Dean.
Troublesome to me, my most troublesome, intrusive thought of training camp. So
I don't
far.
wanna say
it's only one day. It's only
troublesome.
one day.
I
But that's
want to
the only
say
thought.
good. Make
Okay,
him
explain it.
compete.
Oh no.
He was
I
given
absolutely want
just
it.
like Reed Blankenship. Nakobe Dean was given the green dot with no competition. Remember, they ended up bringing in guys like Miles Jack.
Yes.
Later on in camp to
Then he quit.
compete. And then he ended up
And then he ended up
retiring.
and then unretiring.
And then unretiring. Yeah, it was weird. But Nakobe Dean has to earn his job. Good.
I love it. No, I love that part of it. That's fantastic.
This one was fascinating. Darius Slay at corner. The other corner, Isaiah Rodgers.
I wouldn't have bet on that. Now he probably would have. But I mean, it's the I was a little surprised by that. No, I was more than surprised by that. But that's also very promising
Yeah.
because if Isaiah Rodgers is ready to step in and play that kind of role, your depth chart just got considerably better.
Yeah, because you still have Quinyon Mitchell
you got,
waiting in
like,
the weeds.
you can
Keely Ringo, who a lot of people think highly of.
You can bring I do too, and you can bring those guys along, bring them along a little more slowly without the same pressure on them. That might have been it was surprising to me, but it was also I think that's awesome for Eagles fans.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
great news.
And I
news.
think it's again
if it holds. We don't know that it's going to hold. It might have
it's
been
also
just day
awesome
one.
for Vic Fangio because he can move guys in and out.
And it could have been a message.
Could have been. Absolutely.
You don't
could have
know.
been.
I mean, I don't know Vic Fangio enough to say, okay, here's what maybe he was tweaking a guy or two, saying, look, they're going to get the first shot.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Go take it from them.
Vontae Maddox was at the slot. No surprise because of the Cooper DeJean injury. He'll be out for 3 weeks because of the hamstring injury. And then at wide receiver 3, I know this isn't a sexy battle for people. Wide receiver 3 is an open spot right now. Paris Campbell, who had actually good OTAs I know OTAs is OTAs, had a good OTA session. He was lined up as the wide receiver 3, and there's a bunch of wide receivers that will be able to fight for that spot.
I'm going to ask Andrew DiCecco later.
Okay.
I'm of the belief, looking around the NFL, of the really, really good teams, the teams that people are talking about for Super Bowls, wide receiver 3 is a problem. I believe it's a problem.
Well, depends on who you're talking to, because the Kansas City Chiefs don't have a wide receiver 1.
They also have Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, well, exactly.
I believe wide receiver 3 is an issue. I can't wait to ask Andrew DiCecco. I think wide receiver 3 is not on this roster yet. The guy who will end up being wide receiver 3 is not on the roster yet. I'll make that as my day one prediction of camp.
Now, I'll say this. We have to see Paris Campbell really play.
We do.
He might just be like a nuts and bolts guy. Who was the guy that had
Zach Pascal.
He may be.
Zach Pascal. They went to the Super Bowl with Zach Pascal. Zach Pascal
was a veteran.
Yeah.
Zach Pascal was
Campbell.
I'm going to tell you is what the skill.
Hey, we have to see Paris Campbell play. He might not. We're not expecting him to have 120 yards receiving in a game. We're expecting him to have a couple catches on third and shorts and block.
Bit.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be his job.
We'll watch this when the roster comes.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you right now, I do not believe wide receiver 3 is on the roster.
Okay.
Right now, I believe that they will go out.
Julio Jones.
They will go. I do not think that
97-year-old Julio
I don't
Jones.
think they're going to get 97-year-old Julio.
He had
Calvin Johnson.
He had a couple touchdowns. Yeah, Calvin Johnson. Come on, maybe AJ broke his record last year. Maybe he wants to try to come back out of retirement and fix it. All right, Connor, what do we have on the text line today? You can text the show, call the show 610-632-0975. Do you believe that any of the issues from on the field to off the field, do you think they will linger into this upcoming season for the Eagles?
Yeah, we have a check-in from Sean here who says, yeah, I don't really care if they're buddy-buddy or not, talking about Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. As long as they're winning, that's all that I could care about. I'm ready to move past it and look and see what this team can do this year.
I think he speaks for a large portion.
Yeah.
A large portion of the fan base. And this morning, he speaks for me.
But I will say this, as long as they're winning.
As long as they're winning,
If they are not,
then it could be a problem.
And they're not buddy-buddy, might be a problem, which is why I'm glad it seemed like they at least talked it out a little bit, and hopefully that is still heading in the right direction. All right, coming up next, we reset the show. I'll ask the question again and play a couple of clips for you, and I would love more of your response on the text line. But also, I told you that I felt vindicated from Diana Rossini when she said on her podcast that Howie hired the coordinators and not Nick. Howie was asked about that yesterday. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
as yesterday was day one, and it seemed like it went very well for the Eagles, as well as it can be in training camp.
It was a good day.
Yeah, like
good day.
I'm basing this off of what I've read from reporters. It seemed like Jalen Hurts looked sharp. That's what a lot of people were saying. Everybody looked spry. Really, the only guy that had a bad day was Mekhi Becton, who threw up 10 times. Other than that, it seemed like everybody had a good day for the Eagles yesterday.
I got to say this. How do you throw up 10 times? I had when I got hospitalized back in April.
Yes.
In you that you could throw up 10 times.
I also wonder if it gets to the point you're just puking up water because, he's trying to hydrate probably and go back out there and do reps. This guy's trying to fight for a starting job. I give him credit for being out there.
I do, too.
Everybody said he kept practicing. He never stopped. He kept going.
I don't in any, to me, I look at that as a positive.
Damn right.
It's funny as people are looking at it as a negative. I look at it as a positive.
That guy's working hard out there.
The guy's trying. He obviously maybe a little conditioning, or maybe he's sick.
He could be sick. We don't know. Nobody knows what the story is. But those are a lot of takeaways. Apparently, everything was good for the Eagles yesterday. Coming up in a few minutes, I want to play something else from Howie Roseman yesterday. Earlier in the week, I listened more to that Diana Rossini podcast where she said that the relationship between Hurts and Sirianni was still in a work in progress. I listened more to it. And she ended up talking about the coordinator hires and how it was all Howie Roseman, even though Nick Sirianni has said on record multiple times that he was the one that did it. And I think we all didn't believe him. And I felt vindicated when Diana Rossini came out with that report. Howie was asked about that yesterday. We'll play you those clips coming up in a few minutes. You can climb in at 610-632-0975. Here's what we're talking about today. Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni were both asked about the relationship, and they both talked about it. Obviously, Jalen's answers were much more hallmark, but he answered the questions eventually. Nick Sirianni said everything's good. We're excited for another year. I think we are all excited to close the book on this potential beef. And as everyone keeps on saying, as long as they're winning, it'll be fine. They better be winning, because if they don't, we'll start asking more questions. But on July 25th, it seems like that story is done for now, and I love that. So our question today, do you believe that any of the issues from last season, whether it was on the field of play, in the locker room, I used Hassan Reddick as an example. Hassan Reddick seemed to be an issue for the team last year.
I think it's clear to see now that you can absolutely see how he didn't say it before he dealt him, because it would have hurt.
Of course.
Because it would have hurt. And it's obvious and clear that the comments that were made by Sweat and Cox clearly had something to do now in retrospect with Hassan Reddick. Chasing, going rogue, doing your own thing, chasing stats. It was Hassan Reddick. There's nobody else. There's no one else. There's no other position on defense that really chases stats.
No, you're
honestly,
right.
Unless you're a corner trying to jump routes for picks.
Yeah, and that will be...
And they didn't have one of those guys, so we know that wasn't it.
Or maybe it was a philosophy to not do that, because Darius Slay had interceptions before coming to Philadelphia.
No question.
He hasn't really done that much in his time here in Philadelphia.
Don't break, baby.
And I think it's a coaching thing. I don't think it's because Darius Slay lost a step or anything. So our question, do you believe that the issues from last season will linger, any of the issues, or do you think a lot of it was put to bed? I want to play this Hurts clip one more time. Here's Jalen Hurts yesterday talking about his message to his teammates, knowing that talent doesn't always prevail and that they have to play together as a team.
Yeah, I think we're in a great place. I think anytime you have any frustration, anytime you have any adversity that you have to overcome, it's supposed to test you. And I think it's a matter of being on the same page. And I think if we're on the same page, we maybe would accomplish the things we would have. And, we didn't, but it's a learning experience. And I think it's as simple as if I made it happen, I can make it happen. And this team has made it happen before, and there's no doubt that we can make it happen again. But it takes what it takes, and it takes being together. And my message to the team after we did our conditioning test, and even after our first day of practice, in which I thought was a good day of practice, but talent. I've been on very talented teams. My pretty much my whole career, I played around talent, and talent wins you games. It'll take you very far. But it don't last. Teams is what win championships, and that's what we're trying to do.
I love that.
I love the answer. Man. I love the answer. And I just, if that's, and I truly believe that is not a fortune cookie.
Right. I was just about to say that.
I think that is his DNA.
It's a real answer.
And I do believe observe, like the people that have observed him on a daily basis. We'll talk to Andrew DiCecco about it.
Yes.
By the way, coming up around 8:10. But the idea is that everything I know about him, watching him come up through the ranks and everything, I believe that's him. I believe that is a genuine, 100% genuine answer. And I love the fact is, if you did it before, you can do it again.
Yeah, it's a great point.
You can, because there's proof of, again, that's where I say the Eagles, anyone who tells me the Eagles are good on paper, that's a bunch of crap. This Eagles team there's pedigree.
Right.
And pedigree is earned over 3, 4, 5 seasons for a lot of these talented players. I'm a big believer in what they've got cooking. And I love that answer.
Yeah.
Good job, Jalen.
Great job,
That was a great answer.
All right, what do we have on the text line, Connor? You can text the show, call the show, 610-632-0975. Do you believe the issues from last season will linger, any of the issues, or do you think all of them, or at least majority of them, were put to bed?
Jake from Westchester checks in, and he's a little bit nervous about something. So he says, I believe the issues are done, but, in all caps, God forbid they have one similar game, one similar interaction, any type of action that reminds them of last year. We're going to be in a worse situation if that happens. I just hope we win, and when we win, it's in dominant fashion, and the losses are hard-fought losses.
Look, if that happens in Week 8, that's one thing.
If it happens in Week 1, could it be a problem? Yes. I don't believe it, though, because I know Vic Fangio has gotten kicked in the privates, and then his teams have recovered.
Right.
I know that Kellen Moore has had bad games, and his teams have recovered. We didn't have that last year with our coordinators.
No.
The guys who were drawing up our plans didn't have that to draw from. You know, we can have a crappy show, and I swear to you, if we have a bad segment or a bad show, we can literally look at each other and go, okay, that wasn't the best.
Yeah.
Let's not do that again.
Right.
Or whatever. It's that self-awareness only comes from having a crappy show or doing something that you don't want to do again.
Right. Absolutely.
I have no concern. How about this? And again, I'm going to say it, Connor, and you're going to hate it. I have zero concerns that will be what brings down this year's team. Zero concerns about that.
Well, no.
That like one bad game will spook them, and then everything will be terrible. This team's too talented with too much quality coaching.
Right.
I don't hate that at all, because that's zero concerns. That's your opinion. That's totally fine.
Yeah, zero concerns.
It's not feeling. In fact, I have, like, Andrew's given guarantees about games before. I've given guarantees about games. That's totally fine, and I'm with you, man.
Say it with your chest.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, I mean,
very. That's not going to be what brings down.
I don't think
this
there's going to
team.
be a San Francisco boogeyman game.
No. It's not happening.
Well, no. Wait a minute. Think about this. I don't believe that there's. If we looked at it right now, could a December 1st? I think it's like December 1st or something. Baltimore Ravens Sunday night game expose some weaknesses of the Eagles and everything like that. Sure.
Yeah.
I don't think there's one game that will send this crew into a tailspin.
Right. Yeah, and that's my thing. Like they're going to lose games. Like they're not going undefeated, but I don't think there's going to be a loss that is the reason why the whole thing blew up.
Dude, the Super Bowl winning team had a game in Seattle, the game before they played in LA when Wentz went down, where they looked awful.
Right.
And it's like, oh, is this like every team, the great teams still have like a game or two a year where you have cracks in the armor.
How about the Super Bowl champs? Christmas Day,
Oakland.
as Doc was, hitting the shrimp tray at the house. We had the shrimp tray out. It was really good. And we're eating it, we're trying to get our shrimp in before Olivia. And we're watching Patrick Mahomes just get he was terrible.
Oh, I thought you meant the Eagles.
It was Christmas Day.
The year the Eagles won the Super
Patrick
Bowl.
Mahomes, they lost at home to the Raiders. And Patrick Mahomes looked atrocious.
Horrible, yeah.
And I, very smart, football guy that I am.
Yes, it's you.
Said, just isn't their year.
I think a lot of people felt that way.
I said, it just isn't their year, because Liv goes, how can you win the Super Bowl one year, Dad, and be so, like, we were watching him, and we were literally, like, laughing, enjoying it.
Right.
How could they be so terrible? And remember, that was the time when Kelsey was slumping. Terrible.
Well, because he started dating Tay-Tay, and she held him back.
He sold his soul to the devil.
Yeah, she held him back.
And,
he had to fly to Brazil for his shows. Luckily, the Eagles have no travel to Brazil this year.
She goes, how does that happen? Like, Dad, how could they be this? And I was chuckling, sitting on the couch going, yeah, they got big problems.
And Big Red chuckled right back with the
Yeah, he did.
cheeseburger and said,
But guess what?
that's another Super Bowl.
That
Or the
team-
Nugs.
That team went into the postseason with the same exact record as the Eagles.
They did. And
Yeah.
they just had a different path to get there. And, wow, they found a way to turn it around. Why? Superior coaching.
Yeah, and speaking of coaching, speaking of coordinators, Howie Roseman was asked about the Diana Rossini
Is he a coach?
report about the coordinators. Because remember, Nick Sirianni says that he hired the coordinators. We all say baloney.
Baloney.
Diana Rossini kind of I felt vindicated when she said it on the podcast the other day. But yesterday, Howie Roseman was asked about it. Take a listen to his answer.
I think through our process of looking at our first round pick, I feel like myself, our scouts, we had great information on him. Obviously, he went to Toledo. Nick, college roommate, is the head coach of Toledo. When Nick came to me and he said, hey, I got this information on Q, it made me feel much better about the selection that we already felt good about. It's the same process for when we do coaches. You know, Nick will come to me and say, these are the guys thinking about. Do you have any relationship? Do you know these guys? Obviously I've been in the league a long time. I had prior relationships with both of those guys. It makes him feel better about the decision he's making. I mean, these aren't under the radar guys. These are talented guys that have been in the league for a long time. And that's how good organizations make decisions. At the end of the day, I'm responsible for the players that I bring in here, draft, free agency, and he's responsible for his coaching staff. But we work together. That's the whole part of being a team.
Lie detector.
We worked together. Hey, Nick, I'm going to hire these two guys. You good?
Howie's words. You're freaking telling me that Nick Sirianni goes, hey, I'm thinking about this Vic Fangio guy. Do you know him?
Right.
Vic Fangio was on the staff the year before. What's he talking about?
And Vic Fangio would have
this-
remained on the staff
and-
had Jonathan Gannon took the job earlier.
Hey, Kellen Moore, do you know him? You know about this Kellen Moore guy? Yeah, sure as hell we do. Yeah, he's overseen in his 5 years calling plays in the NFL. He is number one in producing points per game. Yes, we know him.
Yeah.
That is
Also
such a ridiculous answer.
In Dallas for the majority
Such a
of those
ridiculous
years.
answer.
You guys are overthinking this a little bit. Basically, what he's saying is that Nick Sirianni's involved in the conversation.
No,
He's
and that's
involved
it.
in the conversation.
Then you know what, though? Here's the thing, Connor. Instead of portraying it as Nick hires his coaches and it's collaborative. No, Nick didn't hire the coaches. Howie did.
Well, listen.
And they stepped in.
Yeah, but he's going to do whatever he can to
To
not
make it
make it seem like
right.
Nick didn't lose all power.
Right.
Which he doesn't really have any.
You
You
know
got to
how
understand from their perspective why he's trying to protect Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, like I don't blame
You don't bring the guy
Howie.
back and
But
shoot him in
it's
the
so
foot.
but it's so alarmingly dumb that it would be like, hey, do you know these guys? Yeah, we know who Kellen Moore is.
Yeah, but what was
we
no,
know
it's not
that we
like-
know
John,
Vic Fangio.
what would Howie say? Yeah,
You know
guys
what would be
got
easy
me.
to do is?
You guys got me. I hired him.
You know what'd be easy to do is? Last year was a disaster. We all agree. Nick agrees. I agree. Jalen agrees. So this offseason, we said we're going to bring in the brightest minds to this organization. We collaborated on it.
Do it by himself.
No, what we said is last year was not good enough.
Okay.
And collaboratively, we decided these were the best people available to help us get back to a Super Bowl, which, by the way, we did the year before, and we think we can do it again.
I just think it's better
Next
to
question.
give more leeway to people answering questions and not say exactly what we need them to say. Like, if they give you the general idea of what we're looking to
I think
hear.
that was a general idea that I just presented. Very general.
It was very general.
He didn't
No,
throw
no, no.
Nick under. It wouldn't throw Nick. It wouldn't throw Nick under the bus. It wouldn't make him look powerless.
Right.
It would be, and you
But-
just own and you spread the wealth.
But to me, what you said is not much different than what Howie Roseman said. He said we had.
I completely disagree. That went on for 40. How long was that soundbite?
Yeah,
Like
he-
45,
he
50
threw
seconds?
more words in
because he
there.
was trying to portray a picture that didn't happen. That did not happen. Howie Roseman knew exactly who he wanted to hire. He wanted the people who cover the Eagles have said on our show that he had his eye on Vic Fangio the
Right.
year before, and the whole Jonathan Gannon thing screwed that
Yeah,
up.
absolutely.
He
Yeah.
said, so you don't have to go into this big song and dance to try to make it like Nick Sirianni did it.
But I get what Connor's saying. Like it's to give Nick Sirianni
I understand,
some
but it's
credit,
such,
I guess.
it's
Yeah,
so
listen.
bizarre. It's so bizarre,
John,
though.
we do it every single day with Andrew. We come in here and say, hey, he presented this topic,
Yeah, we
even though
did.
it's us two. And it's a collaborative team effort.
We do. He even wears long sleeves in the summer. We did that.
It's in the 70s now, man.
We
It's
did that.
nice,
Here's the
it's
thing.
nice in the morning.
For all of Howie Roseman's power grabbing that he does do his best, I think, to try and protect the coach's standing.
I think he does too, and I think, as Andrew pointed out earlier in the show, very adroitly, he's gotten a lot better.
He's gotten a lot better at it, dude. Because
better. He was not
long
like
ago.
that.
It was bad, and that's why there was legitimate calls for his job. I mean, it was really bad a couple of years ago.
He did not do a good job.
And he's done a tremendous job of getting better at it. All right, what do we have on the text line today, Connor? Do you believe that any of the issues from last season on the fields, on the sideline, off the field, will any of them linger heading into the 2024 NFL season for the Philadelphia Eagles? What do you got on the text line, Connor?
Jamal in West Philly isn't as believing as we are. So
Okay.
What?
He says, I don't believe anything, in all caps, that Hurts or Nick said yesterday. I'll believe a WWE match or soap opera skit
get the hell outta
before
here.
I believe Beavis and Butthead.
Wow.
Not,
Wait a minute.
not
Wait.
believing.
Which one's Beavis?
That's a good question.
I don't
and which
know.
one's Butthead?
So, look,
That's what I'm trying to figure.
we all said the same thing, at least the three of us. I don't know if Jamal felt the same way. I don't care, lie to me. Right?
Why do I don't want it to be as much lie to me as just like that answer from Nick from Howie. The lie
that was
detector
a
would
lie.
have been the lie detector would have been pinning on
Right.
that one. It was just you don't need to do that.
Yeah, but there's also a lie detector because we know Howie Rosen, right? Like, it's the Howie Rosen show.
Yes.
I don't know Jalen Hurts enough, right? Maybe he did mean what he said about Sirianni yesterday. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. But they finally talked about it, and it wasn't us going. We didn't have to read into an answer anymore. Like
there was no
last
right.
time he spoke during OTAs, the pauses, the lip smacking, the little laugh when the question was answered, very much like when Bryce Harper was asked about the curveball machine and he laughed about it and then had to try to quickly backtrack because he didn't want to disrespect his manager, even though Gabe Kapler was an idiot and a terrible manager, and I hope he fails as a GM now because he's on the hate list, John.
He is.
I believe that Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, whether or not they truly feel it, they're probably on the same page of, look, we have to get this behind us. We have to move forward. We have to work together, whether we're best friends or not. And I think that's what we got yesterday. Fair?
That's fair. No, very fair.
Whether you believe them or not, like Jamal has his right to his beliefs and his opinions, right?
And Jamal may be right.
He
but
might be right.
We need to, I take a lot of stuff at face value when I don't have an alternative. And in this situation, we don't really have an alternative.
Right. So coming up at 8:10, John's mentioned it. Andrew DiCecco from Inside the Birds will be joining us, and he also does a lot of great things here at the Fanatic. He was on last night with Kevin Cooney. We played hoops yesterday. It was hoop night with me and Connor.
Well,
and
it should have been hoop night.
And I'm driving to basketball, and I'm listening to Kevin and Andrew. And Kevin was really still hanging on to the Hurts and Sirianni thing. I'm glad that I'm not there today.
I'm not there either. I think they did an adequate enough job of moving on. And by the way, both of them had good. I think the answer that they both gave first was terrible. And I think that they got better as in other answers as it went along. So it's like, can we just.
You know why that might have been
great
terrible? And this is human element, right? Like, I remember when Sirianni's introductory press conference, he got ripped, right? Must have been a tough spot. He was on Zoom, right? All kinds of things.
In the middle of COVID.
You know that Sirianni and Hurts probably prepared what they were going to say. Have you ever prepared to say something and didn't come out the way you first expected it to?
We heard a coach yesterday do that.
I think maybe
we're going to hear it later.
Maybe Hurts and Sirianni were thinking so much about it that their answers weren't great. But then when the follow-up happened, the follow-up question
was spectacular.
Was much better.
Yeah, it was really good.
And so maybe that's what it was. Who knows? We're all human. I know we look at them like these totally different people because they're athletes that get paid a bunch of money. They're also human. There was a lot going on, and it looks like they squashed it. All right, coming up next, we get more of your reaction. Also, I want to get into this discussion of patience for the 2024 Eagles. Adam Schefter's on Team Kincade and Salciunas. We'll discuss more coming up next right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Training camp.
on this Wendy's Thursday morning. We have another $50 gift card to give away at some point this hour. I'll let you know when to call the contest line. The breakfast burrito should be here soon, and I can't wait to devour it and tell you about how delicious it is, and then try to get you to buy one when you have a $50 Wendy's gift card. So we'll let you know when to call the contest line. But what I want to get into this segment, even though we'll continue getting your reaction on whether or not the issues from last year's Eagles team, whether or not they will linger and coming into this year, and it's not just drama, it's also on the field issues. Like, do you think the linebacker issues will continue? Do you think pass rush falling off the second half of the season will continue? Do you believe that offense will be an issue? Whatever issue you can think of. There were a lot of them. There's a reason why they fell apart. There wasn't just one. There was many issues why they fell apart last year. What will linger, or will it all be done, which would be great? Would love more of your answers on that at 610-632-0975. But I want to get into this conversation about patience, John.
Patience.
Because Adam Schefter joined us yesterday, and I loved his answer, but I loved it so much because he agreed with us.
We tend to like his answers better.
And then when he
agrees with us, we really do think he's a smarter guest to have on the show.
So it's been like 2 weeks, right? Because we had him on last. Yeah, it's been 2 Thursdays, 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago was when Andrew DiCecco told us that we need to be patient with the offense.
Yeah, we'll have that DiCecco dude on in like 40 minutes.
And then we eventually, I asked him about the other side of the ball, and he said, "Oh no, you don't be patient with the defense." And I found that astonishing. That if
sounds backwards,
right? If I have to be patient with anything, I feel like I should be patient with the young defense that was bad last year, that had an overhaul. We still don't know who a lot of the starters will be.
The depth chart is a bunch of question marks.
Like, nobody really thought that Isaiah Rodgers would be cornerback number 2, the opposite side of Darius Slay.
I should have bet it, and I didn't.
He was there yesterday, right? So I'm trying to figure out what patience should be. Now, I have been very adamant, my approval for the old school, and I say that in quotes, training camp. I hope that means some preseason time for these players, because I'm tired of the first 4 weeks of the season being considered an extension of the preseason. It's great that the Eagles have been undefeated through those 4 weeks the last 2 seasons. I would rather be clicking early on, especially when you have to travel to Brazil and take on a conference opponent that is no joke in the Green Bay Packers.
Thanks for that, Jeffrey.
You're going to have to take on a playoff team from last year in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the first 4 weeks. I know what we said about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They beat you. The Atlanta Falcons are the team that a lot of people are picking to win that division. You will be facing them in the first 4 weeks, and Kirk Cousins is a guy that's been able to pick your defense apart.
He has.
I don't want to do this all, don't worry about the first 4 weeks. If you start 2-2, you're behind the 8 ball.
I don't think you're going to, if you start out 2-2, I don't think you're going to be behind the 8 ball in the NFC East, but I think you're going to be behind the 8 ball on trying to secure that bye, which we all know. Having to win 2 games at home to go to the Super Bowl, that's the path.
Yeah.
That's the desired path.
Absolutely. So I don't necessarily want to be patient, because I don't believe I should be patient with this offense. This offense, we should not be, there's no excuses.
28.0 is the floor in my mind.
Yeah.
That should be where this team meets that expectation.
And then when it comes to defense, I have to be patient. I'd be more patient with them, but
I would.
They're the reason on the field why you lost a lot of games. And, I'm not going to be well, let me give judgment week 6. I'm going to see it early on. Now, Connor, I know you are more patient than us, and you were very happy when Andrew DiCecco had the answers that he had. Now, I imagine you're not going to be not patient with the defense. I think you'll be a little bit more patient with the defense, too.
No, but I kind of understand what he's saying, right? The bar is so... If you ask somebody to run a foot and another person to run a mile, I'm going to have less patience for the person I asked to run a foot. The bar is so low for the defense.
Okay.
I need you to come out week 1 and not look incompetent. That's just asking price of any defense on a team that has any shot to do anything in the NFL. And there were times we didn't have that last year. Now, I will say earlier on in the year, the defense looked better. So we even saw it under Sean Desai. But I understand kind of from that perspective what Andrew's saying, and we'll get a chance to hear his thoughts at 8:10.
We'll talk to him at 8:10 about it.
On the offensive side of the ball, I'm going to stand fast on this. I think there should be a bit of restraint when it comes to how we evaluate the way that they play. Not as far as win-loss, but as far as eye test, right? There are going to be plays that look clunky. There just are. I firmly believe.
I agree with you.
Like, the numbers may be good. The results may be good, but there will be points where a wide receiver or a tight end runs a wrong route, or Jalen Hurts reads something wrong, or Saquon Barkley tries to take a handoff on the wrong side. Like, there's a lot of moving parts to Kellen Moore's offense, and I'm going to give them a little bit of time to make it look like I think it should, as long as they're still producing wins.
Well, and now here's my one caveat to that, I guess I should say, or my one rebuttal.
Okay.
Is that I think we were all patient last year.
Yeah.
And it never seemed to get better.
No,
there
you're
were
right.
a couple of games.
Never got better.
Like week 3 was the first time Jalen Hurts made a play. That touchdown pass to Olamide Zaccheaus. It was the first play all season long where I was like, all right, that was 2022 Jalen Hurts. He made a couple in week 4, and before you know it, they're terrible against the Jets, right?
I got you.
And then after week 11, there were only like 2 or 3 games where he played well, and some of them they lost because of, not Hurts, because of the offense. A.J. Brown dropping balls, Devontae Smith dropping balls against the Cowboys. Now, drops, is that patience? I don't know.
Not
like,
really.
It's drops. It happens. It sucks. Turnovers were a problem from week 1 to week 18.
Let me tell you.
17.
How is that Kellen Moore's fault?
It's not.
Exactly. Do you have faith that Kellen Moore's a good offensive coordinator?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Do you have faith that at the end of the year, whether they start fast or start slow, that he's going to find a way to make this offense productive?
I believe he will.
I do question, though, whether the only question I have on Kellen Moore is, again, I hate his time of possession numbers.
Right, and that's fine, and we'll see how that plays out. Like, that could be a sticking point.
It's just 5 years of data. Mm-hmm. He has not been good at that at all. That is to me the only thing that I give him an F on.
That's a totally valid concern, and we'll see that play out. But even with that in the past 5 years, John, his offenses have been incredibly productive. And while they may have started well in Dallas and Los Angeles with the Chargers, if it doesn't here, I think we all have enough faith in him, or should have enough faith in him, that he's going to solve problems. The problem last year is we gave patience to a coordinator who was never going to solve anything. This year, I'm willing to give patience to a guy that I believe will figure it out, even if it doesn't look great. He can adjust. I know that. That's part of the reason I think we should be okay with exercising a little patience.
All right, well, here was Adam Schefter with us yesterday. The great reporter that Adam Schefter is, Connor.
Stop butting up.
Agreeing with Andrew Salciunas and John Kincade.
By the way, it looks like at least half the defense is going to be new as starters, roughly. I mean, they could have like 6 new defensive starters. And you know what I say about patience and being a fan? Screw that. Like, I don't know. Who cares? Like, you're room for them to win. You know, as a fan, fans aren't patient. That's not what fans are supposed to be. You know, fans are supposed to be into it. And like, you're not plotting out how to be like, I'm going to pace myself and be patient with this team. Like, no, you're all in. You know, they're opening the season in Brazil against Green Bay. You know, get out your sombreros and start rooting for the Eagles. I mean, that's the deal. Like, you're not waiting to say, well, I know this defense is going to come together. I know the offense is going to come together. So I'm going to be a little understanding of this opening day loss. I don't think that's how fans think and operate.
I love it. I mean, he's spot on. Like, it's great that you're preaching patience in July, Connor. If they lose week 1 and it's bad to Green Bay, a big conference matchup, are you going to be like,
no, that's
patient?
That's not what I'm saying. Right? And here, you got to hear what I'm saying. I'm expecting the offense to look clunky at points. I'm expecting them to not necessarily put their best foot forward. I would understand that. If they lose to Green Bay in embarrassing fashion, I'm going to be as ticked off as the next guy.
Okay.
But I don't believe that they're going to do that. And while I think that's up in the air week 1, I don't think they're going to go out and get embarrassed. Like,
I don't think so either.
Like, if the offense looks okay and the defense is okay, and you have some clunky stuff that a good team in Green Bay is able to beat you on a neutral field, I'm not going to say, okay, well, it's more of last year. Or I'm not going to say, oh, well, Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio didn't do a good enough job of having these guys prepared.
No, but I think this is maybe the biggest part where we're just not seeing eye to eye. And, John, I'd like your input on this, too. It's not that if they start off week 1 slow, I'm going to be like, oh, this is the team.
Right.
All 17 weeks are going to be like this. My biggest thing is this offense should move.
It should not. There should not be this big learning curve.
Exactly. That's what I think.
With this kind of talent across all position groups, we should not accept it. We should not think that it's okay. And more importantly, you have 6 weeks till you play tomorrow. There's no excuse. The only reason you might not be looking your best and shot is because you didn't work it enough. You didn't take the opportunities you have to get out there, work harder in camp, play more in preseason, do those kind of things. That's the only reason we should accept we should understand. Yeah, if this team's not humming in week 1 and not at least looking competent and like they're on the same page, it's on their preparation.
Right.
It's on how they
doesn't mean we think
they choose to prepare. It's how they choose to prepare.
But we also know how important wins are in the NFL, man, and you got a tough matchup week 1.
And it could be where you're talking about. Do you go to Lambeau in January or do you come here?
Right, absolutely.
Based on that game, thank you, Jeffrey Lurie, for that. We do appreciate you.
Oh, I just saw Mike Vito walk by.
Oh, wait a minute. I know what that means.
You know what that means. How about we give it away right now? Caller number 3 to the contest line, 215-263-0975. Will win our second $50 Wendy's gift card for a whole new way to nug. Try Wendy's new saucy nugs today. Open till midnight or later at participating U.S. Wendy's. Hours may vary by location. I'm going to get myself a burrito. Coming up next, I want to expand on this patience conversation. Would love to hear from you. 610-632-0975. Will you be patient with the Eagles through the first, let's say, 4 weeks of the season, where you're going to give them time to learn? Or are you going to say, hey, I need to see that those issues from last year were solved quickly? It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Boy, that's a
97.5
good
The
day, eh? Christmas in July with a burrito. Christmas in July.
So two things, real quick. Two things before we get back to our conversation. I know we're very focused on the Eagles today.
And that burrito, which is delicious.
Devoured it. Two things. One, Christmas in July is weird. Christmas in June is the midway point. That one makes more sense. Even though it doesn't roll off the tongue, wouldn't you agree, Connor? Christmas in June, because it's midway.
I think they're both dumb. If you celebrate your half birthday, you're dumb. If you make up holidays, you're dumb. Just celebrate the one Christmas we have.
Yeah, half birthdays to me is ridiculous.
Well, that's what
it's sort of like
July is half
it's sort
Christmas.
of like,
but it's not half. It's 5 months from now.
Okay.
It would be Christmas in June.
Okay, I got another one though. I got another one though that'll be controversial.
All right.
Anniversaries when you're not married.
That's controversial.
Yeah, try telling that to a girl.
Anniversaries when you're not married.
I celebrate
Anniversary
them.
is the celebration of a commitment.
I celebrate them with Christmas.
Yeah, man, you can make a commitment before marriage.
And it's not like you're not
Do
buying.
you make a commitment on your first date?
No. I'm not really going to my friends at Family Company Jewelers to drop like thousands of dollars. Like here, happy 1 month anniversary.
I've heard that though. It's our 6-month anniversary. That's to me that is a violation.
Hey, easy. That's a big step.
That's
for
it's
some
our
people.
7
I hope
month.
to get there one day.
That's halfway to a year, man.
It's our 7-month anniversary. Yeah.
And then the other thing.
What's that?
Brendan Gunn, who is our associate producer, does a tremendous job. He worked his ass off yesterday, with all the audio that was out there.
Second best sports person to come out of his high school at Strathaven, next to Big John Clark.
It's pretty close though. B Gunn told us that he can't eat food while drinking water. It has to be something flavored.
It's like a middle school
And he
kid.
said it, Connor, you even said it. Like, he said it as if, like, we were all going to agree with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like a middle school kid.
It was weird, like, because he's drinking a coffee that has cream in it that he's not necessarily a fan of. But I said, then why are you drinking it? Like, just drink water. I can't drink water while I eat.
It's crazy.
It was weird.
Nuts.
Hearing that answer from him was like listening to Nick Sirianni yesterday. Take like a minute and a half to answer a question he could answer in 10 seconds.
Right. Well,
but it was a good day. It was a good day for Nick.
But at least Sirianni answered a question that made sense. That
logically and rationally.
That one makes no sense. But I'm sure in the crazy world that we live in, there are people that feel the same way about our B Gun. All right, let's get to some text messages. You can climb in at 610-632-0975. What issues from last year do you believe will linger into this season, or do you think they were all squashed? And I lean more so to the side of I believe that they will be all squashed. Do I still think the defense won't be a top 5 defense? Of course not. I don't think they'll be 30th, though. Right? Like, when it comes to, let's focus on the talent for a second, not the drama. From the talent standpoint, what issues did you have last year? Offense that wasn't creative.
A secondary that didn't know how to communicate.
I think that will be fixed.
That was terrible. Like that we saw players running into each other.
Yeah.
We saw a missed assignment, especially down the stretch.
Right.
Once or twice a half.
Yeah.
Terrible.
But I
think
don't think
that
that's
will go.
talent. That's just talking. That's teaching.
Or
Let's
preparation.
say football in general. I'm saying forget the
okay,
drama.
yeah,
Forget
I
like
got you.
Hurts and Sirianni beefs, right? From a football standpoint, the offense will be more creative. It won't be as predictable. Communication, I think, under Vic Fangio will be better. Linebackers, from a talent perspective, I believe will be better than what we saw last year.
Maybe.
I think the only issue that might arise is the pass rush. That's the one thing that I'm concerned. But other than that, like, I think a lot of the issues from last year were solved. They were addressed by Howie Roseman, addressed by Nick Sirianni, addressed by the new coordinators that were here. I think they all kind of get put to bed.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I do not have concerns about this team putting itself in a position to be sitting there with a chance to go to New Orleans and win the Super Bowl.
Right.
Whether they do it come January, we got to see how they're playing, see how healthy they are and everything. But I believe we have adults in charge again.
Absolutely.
We don't have, you're not dealing with Brian Johnson.
And
you're not
Sean
dealing
Desai.
with Sean Desai.
Right. And then eventually Matt Patricia. What do we have on the text line, Connor?
Eddie from Camden checks in, and he says, guys, this is like getting cheated on. Every time you see your girl with another guy or near another guy, you're going to be reminded of the issue, whether you choose to take her back or not. So he worries that if we see a similar situation to last year at any point, it's going to bring back those memories. It's going to lead to a spiral. So we are going to be reminded at points of last year's downfall, but we got to move forward anyway.
Okay, and I'm fine with the moving forward, but he's saying we're making too much of it, but then he's also saying that he's going to be reminded of it.
Correct. Like, I mean, you can't. I don't think you can have it both ways. Like, you have to. If you're saying I'm going to be reminded of it the minute that something bad starts to happen,
let's not make too much of it.
Then that's something you should be making a lot of.
Yeah.
Because you haven't turned the page.
Yeah, the text kind of had two answers.
You haven't turned the page.
I think what he's saying is, like, for him, it's going to bother him if he sees, I don't know, Sirianni acting up on the sidelines or the offense stale. But the Eagles made the decision to bring Sirianni back, and Jalen Hurts is still the quarterback, so you kind of just have to accept the situation and move forward, even if you do think that you could see situations similar.
They literally coach you up, and it's and it's not maudlin at all. Is when you get over cancer. If you didn't think about having the sniffles on a normal morning that you woke up, after you've survived cancer and you're done your thing, don't start freaking out that you have the sniffles. Like, it doesn't, like, you hopefully can return to normal life. You can't live your life in any way, shape, or form thinking because something bad happened once, it's going to happen again.
Right, but they coach you up because it's a natural place that people go.
And I think that is, if you're mentally tough, you overcome that. And I hope this roster's mentally tough. I do.
Right, but from a fan perspective,
I think fans got to get tougher. I really do.
If I see Hurts and Sirianni on the sideline have these slightest strange. Remember the photo that is still tweeted out of Doug Peterson, Carson Wentz, and Hurts? And he's looking at Hurts with a smile on his face. That was talked about for weeks because there were already reports that Doug and Wentz weren't really communicating anymore. And then all of a sudden that photo circulated, and we made a big deal out of it. The second
and we didn't even know at the time.
Right.
That it really was
an issue.
There was something to that.
The second Hurts and Sirianni look at each other in a weird way, you know we're going to pick it apart. Not just on the radio, fans will too.
Well, are they, and again, like I know we're going to get it this fall, so prepare ourselves mentally.
Okay.
Eagles start out, like I thoroughly expect something like 6-2.
Yeah.
Something along those lines. 7. Saw them start great last year.
Oh, you know that's coming.
And you know it's and that's going to happen. And I would say, well, then why don't you reference 2022? When you saw them start out great, and it ended up in the Super Bowl. Like, to me, it's the fans who are panicking over, oh, man, the Phillies.
Well, deep down.
They're only one game over 500 since London. Man, this team's got big holes. You know what they don't have? They don't have as big a problems as every other team in Major League Baseball has.
Right. I think deep down, people naturally wait for the other shoe to drop and look for a shoe even if it's not there. I think that's natural for a lot of people.
For a lot of people.
Negadelphia thing, right? Like, I mean, we've tried fighting that forever, but I think that's just what we all go back to.
I'd never be able to function if that's how I lived my life.
It's good for you, Johnny.
I can't do it.
Mr. Logic over here.
Can't do it.
All right, coming up next, we got a big 8 o'clock hour ahead of you. Andrew DiCecco will join us at 8:10. He was at camp yesterday. Today's headlines with Connor Thomas at 8:05. Before all of it, Jalen Hurts said something yesterday. He has a new job this year. And I wonder what could have been last year if he already had it. It was something that caught my ear yesterday. We'll discuss it. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. this Wendy's Thursday morning. I hope you have a safe trip into work today. We have
Love that you mentioned that.
always, man. 8 o'clock. We got 2 more $50 Wendy's gift cards to give away. We'll give one away this hour, and of course, one in the 9 o'clock hour. Andrew DiCecco will be joining us coming up at 8:10, as he does every single Thursday. We love his work, and he was at camp yesterday, so can't wait to get some of the his notes from camp yesterday. We got today's headlines with Connor Thomas coming up at 8:05. But before that, I want to play something for you. This caught my ear yesterday, and I don't know what to make of it. So Jalen Hurts was talking about, his new offense, his new life, right? He's got Kellen Moore is now the new offensive coordinator. He's got new offensive linemen. He's going to have a new wide receiver 3, right? Something I didn't think about.
Okay.
We all talked about Jason Kelce leaving, right? He retired.
Right.
The way they handled the blitz in the years that Jalen Hurts has been the quarterback so far, it was all Jason Kelce.
Well, okay. I'll hold till you get
All
your
right.
full thought out.
Well, no, I don't really.
Because last year they were terrible at it for a large portion of the season.
And so I said in the tease, I
Could
wonder
they be better at it
I
this
wonder
year?
what could have been last year if Jalen Hurts already had this job. Take a listen to Jalen Hurts yesterday during his press conference. And again, this is no shot at Jason Kelce or
Absolutely.
anything. Here's Jalen Hurts talking about his new life with now Cam Jurgens at center. Jalen Hurts now having to call out the blitzes, which he wanted to do before.
Over the years, it's been something that I've wanted to do, but I feel like it hasn't. When you have Jason Kelce, it's like just let him do it, And so I never really had the opportunity to do those things, but I think the opportunity has come, and I think it's a collaborative thing with myself and Cam, and we just have to build that relationship. He knows I have a lot of confidence in him to do the job and be the player he is. I mean, he stepped up for us in big moments. He played guard for us last year, and he's been ready. He's ready to lead that O-line room, and I know those guys are going to lean on him.
Now, certain teams do it that way.
Yes.
And certain teams let the quarterback do that.
Right, because they have a better eye. They're standing. They're scanning the field better than the center can.
I don't know it for a fact, but I would believe the vast majority do.
Quarterbacks? Yeah, I agree with you. And look, you heard him say in the beginning, it's Jason Kelce. You let Jason Kelce do
absolutely
what he's done.
And the results were pretty
impressive. What's getting him to Canton, right? I mean, it wasn't just blocking. Like, he did a lot of things for the Eagles in order to be successful offenses for so many years. But it's interesting that at the beginning of that clip, he said, this is something that I've wanted to do. And maybe he might feel more comfortable now. I don't know. It's just something that intrigued me when I heard it yesterday, because it's not something that I've thought about. How Jason Kelce called out all the blitzes, at least what he believed. We talked, you said it, and I don't disagree with you. It was bad last year.
It was bad. No, it was really bad. That's where last year I got into the whole idea of please stop telling me about veteran leadership in the locker room. Like, the team fell apart mentally, and the veterans were part of a major problem of why they weren't performing.
Except Fletcher Cox. He was very good.
I think Fletcher
was actually really good.
I said Fletcher had a better year than he had in 2022.
Yeah,
and
he was
I'm not
great
saying
last
something.
year. Right. But I found that interesting, hearing Jalen Hurts basically say that he's excited for an extra thing on his plate. And maybe this is something that he's wanted to do. Now, 2 years ago, they went to the Super Bowl. So,
correct.
This isn't a shot at Jason Kelce. Last year was really bad. Maybe that's one of the things that Jalen wanted to do that Nick Sirianni didn't allow and he didn't see eye to eye with. Who knows?
And if I'm Nick Sirianni, I am not taking that responsibility away from Jason Kelce.
No, you can't.
I wouldn't
have had the guts to go up
No,
to Jason
absolutely
and go, hey,
not.
Jason, by the way, I want to do something different now. And it appears as if Jalen was like, hey, I didn't want to take that responsibility away from him either, but I would have loved to have done it.
And now that he has the opportunity, he wants it.
Yeah, I think it's simple. You could not have possibly taken the opportunity away, but
Of
now
course
that
not.
you're forced to do so, it could be a benefit because the quarterback wants to be more in control of the offense.
And how many times have you heard people say, oh, he can't read a blitz, he can't read a defense?
I don't believe, by the way,
I hope they're wrong.
I don't believe that. I really do
Right,
not
I don't
believe that
either.
with Jalen. I will tell you this, though, is that I couldn't love hearing that from my quarterback more.
That he wants it.
Yes. Because then what you do is you're taking the weight of expectations, you're placing it squarely on your shoulders, and you're saying, this is what you should expect of me.
Right.
And to me, that's maturity, that's leadership, that's leading by example. And I've always believed that leading by example, for the most part, work ethic at it, the time he puts in was probably one of his strongest attributes.
Yep, absolutely. All right, I just want to play that for you guys because
I like
found
that.
it interesting. All right, it's 8:05. Time now for today's headlines with Connor Thomas.
Today's headlines with Connor Thomas.
What up, Connor?
What's up, boys?
What are you doing?
I'm playing a little hurt today. I got a jammed thumb from hoops last night, so bear with me, but it's okay.
It'll be fine.
So we've got a change coming to the South Philadelphia Sports Complex, and I'm not talking about the Sixers' plans to move. Wells Fargo announced yesterday that it'll be dropping its naming rights to the Wells Fargo Center next year, and social media had a field day with what the best or funniest Philadelphia area sponsor would be. So if you could pick the perfect next name for the Wells Fargo Center, what would it be and why?
Funniest name you're saying?
Could be funny. It could be a sponsor you believe that would be great for it.
The best sponsor for it would be our friends at Wawa.
I did see a lot of the Wawa
I think
Center.
Wawa would be the most appropriate as far as the most prolific. We can't agree on cheesesteak joints. We can't agree on those type of things. We all agree on Wawa.
We do.
Everybody is addicted in some way, shape, or form to the convenience and what Wawa provides.
Would it shock you, and I know this isn't answering your question, but would it shock you if it was like the Comcast Center? Like the Comcast literally owns the Flyers. They want to have their own. They still want their building. They want to build that complex down there. Like, wouldn't you be like? It makes sense.
That wouldn't shock me at all.
Dr. Avidan Appel putting his name on the building.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. Like we would.
Dude, any cheesesteak joint would be great.
Yeah, but the thing, no, would because then it would just because
the Chubby Center,
the Tony and Nick Center.
Then it would just because it would cause so much dissension. No, we can't have.
Oh, I can't go to that stadium because I don't like their cheesesteaks. Oh, it's called the Pats and Gino Center. Oh, that's too touristy for me.
Dude, one of my greatest Philadelphia sports regrets. It's nothing that I missed, but I missed just by not really being old enough. The FU Center. I would love to have a building in this town called the FU Center again.
That would be fantastic.
You know what I'd love, honestly? And I'd love to have a center that doesn't have a corporate name on it. But that's not going to happen.
No, it's not.
I liked it.
What do you want, the John Kincade Center?
No, I liked it when. No, I liked it when stadiums were stadiums. That's just
I know what you mean, like Arrowhead Stadium, Soldier Field.
I don't. I as a broadcaster and everything. I wouldn't try to use the corporate name unless I had to. I just think it's played.
That's interesting.
It's a bit played out.
That's majority of them, right? Like,
yes, it is. The vast majority of them are now.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's next, Connor?
Next, we've got, my goodness. So we had some press conferences in town yesterday, but we also had Big Ten Media Day.
Oh, this is awesome.
And UCLA is joining the Big Ten this year. Head coach Deshaun Foster stepped to the podium, and normally for an opening statement, you prepare a statement. It seems like Coach didn't get the memo. Take a listen to what the first sound of UCLA and the Big Ten sounded like.
How you guys doing? I'm happy to be here. Glad to be a part of this great conference. Finally putting two great emblems together, UCLA and the Big Ten. We're a school that's won, 123 championships, so this fits us being right in this conference. Football-wise, we're just excited. You know, I'm sure you guys don't know too much about UCLA, but our football program, but we're in LA. It's us and USC. I'm just basically excited, really. That's it.
Okay, you edited that out.
Yeah, there were pauses.
Yeah, there were gigantic pauses
for
in there.
the sake
so
of
somebody
brevity.
hearing, but somebody hearing that doesn't hear the awkwardness of
right.
it.
Still, or UCLA. You might not know this, but we play in Los Angeles. It's us and USC.
It was as atrocious.
Watch this. He's going to be a freaking awesome coach. Because he seems like I don't care about this stuff. I just want to coach football. Watch, he'll be really good.
That's a bold,
okay.
that's a bold pick there.
I don't believe that.
He'll be better than Chip Kelly in UCLA.
Well,
I don't believe that necessarily either.
I'm also
really don't.
very anti-Chip Kelly.
Yes.
Okay, I got it. You're just rooting for that. I know. And look, we all are. We all can't.
Look, all I know is Nick
stand him.
Sirianni had a horrible
if that is
press
anything,
conference.
Okay, hang on then. I'm going to put you on the spot, Mr. College Football 25.
Yes.
You're running Temple's football program right now, virtually, of course.
Very well.
You've had a great opening season, I heard.
By the way, beat USC. We advanced in the college football playoffs. I just haven't played yet, but go ahead.
College football.
Yeah, man.
Okay, let's say Temple joins the Big Ten. What's your big opening statement? Make one.
I would have it prepared.
He would have it prepared.
okay.
He'd be ready to speak.
You're asking me on a spot.
He'd be
As if I
going,
got
"Look,
hired today.
We're from North Philly.
And we fight.
We fight.
The Chip Kelly line that I loved, but he sucked, so I can't really quote it. We're from Philadelphia and we fight. I loved that line.
I didn't because he's not from Philly. So I didn't like it.
Talking about the Eagles.
No, I got it, but I didn't like it because of the fact is one thing I know about Philadelphia. That's different. Like I would have seriously. Like
he was coaching the Eagles. Like,
look, he ended up being full of crap, and I knew it from the opening presser.
Oh, that's true, too.
There you go.
All right, let's head to the Comcast Business Hotline. Every day in business is a big day. Let Comcast Business help you move forward with what's next. He does a tremendous job covering the Eagles for Inside the Birds, and, of course, here at 97.5, The Fanatic. I heard him yesterday with Kevin Cooney, and he was ready to just talk about camp and squash the beefs. Good morning, Andrew. I was listening to you guys yesterday.
You heard that.
Yes, I did. And part of me doesn't blame you. Part of me also doesn't blame Kevin because it is the nature of the business. But you seemed very much ready to talk about day one of camp. It seems like they had a very good day yesterday.
Yeah, they really did, Andrew. I thought Jalen Hurts looked really crisp. There wasn't a ton of explosive plays, but he largely kept the offense on schedule. I thought he was really accurate. His timing was good. And I got to see how he was sort of being able to take what he learned during the spring, that installation period, right, and then carry it over. And it looked like he was making quicker decisions, and he was just a lot more in command and at the controls there. So I thought that was encouraging. Saquon Barkley, he dazzled. You never want to make too much out of one practice, but he obviously has the burst and the explosiveness, and you got to see him really shine as a runner and as a receiver. So offensively, I think you have to be really excited with where the Eagles can go. And then on the defensive side, I thought I was really taken. I thought that one of my primary takeaways was the mixing and matching of personnel to better gauge what you have and put guys in positions to be successful.
From sitting next to you at games, I've probably talked to you about this way too many times. The idea of Jalen Hurts under center, Jalen Hurts in shotgun, the varied looks. How big of a transition is this going to be for Jalen, and how much do you think we're going to see him under center?
It will be a pretty significant difference in Jalen's game, especially when you're operating with a new center quarterback exchange. And I think that's why training camp, John, is so important right now to get that timing down, establish that. And look, I think Jalen has proven throughout his career, he's had a number of different coordinators in successive years, that he's able to absorb and adapt. But it's going to be a bit of a change. I'm not exactly sure how much you're going to see him do it, but it's certainly going to be an element of the offense.
Andrew, what do you make of something that Jalen Hurts said yesterday? We played it about 10 minutes ago before we brought you on. He was talking about his new center and Cam Jurgens, but he started talking about his new role, an added role to his position at quarterback, that he's now going to be the guy that's looking at the defense and calling out blitzes, where he relied solely on Jason Kelce. And he even said that he wanted to work on it. So what do you think about that? Do you think Jalen Hurts will be able to handle these responsibilities? And, do you think this is a good thing that it's the quarterback that will be calling out the blitzes?
It was interesting, and I'm glad you played that because that was one of the things that sort of maybe got lost in yesterday, where I thought Jalen had a really good showing at the podium. But I'm not surprised, Andrew. It's just something that Jalen Hurts, I guess if you had to look at one word that would really describe him yesterday, was ownership. I thought he wanted to take ownership of the offense. I thought he took ownership of his part in the shortcomings of last season, and he wants to make the offense his. He's said that numerous times, and I think him being able to take on that significant task in identifying blitzes and things of that nature, well, that really ties into his evolution as a quarterback. And I think for him to be able to take that leap to reach that level that he hasn't reached yet under Kellen Moore, I think that's going to be something that they really look to tap into and pretty much open up the entire menu and have it at his disposal. But he's a really sharp-minded quarterback, so I think that won't be an issue. But initially, it may be a bit of a transition period.
Andrew, you talk about how it's going to be different when we see Jalen Hurts and a little bit of a different wrinkle to his game. Which of the wide receivers do you think is most going to be affected as far as things looking a little different for them? A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith?
I think it's going to be different for both players in different ways. I think A.J. is going to command a ton of attention. I think Devontae Smith is going to be able to reap the benefits there. But the question that I have, to be honest, is what becomes of the number 3 wide receiver role, where Kellen Moore has proven throughout his career, whether it be at Dallas as the OC or last season with the Chargers, that he's going to lean heavily on 11 personnel, and that's 3 wide receiver sets. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to come in a traditional sense. You could use Saquon Barkley in that role, perhaps. But I think right now that's a big question because it's a pretty big void because that's a staple in his ideology. So to me, that would be Paris Campbell.
I said this morning that I don't believe wide receiver 3 for this Kellen Moore offense is on the roster right now. I think they're going to go get somebody or find a cut or something. Is that likely, or do you believe unlikely?
Well, I think that's a fair assessment, but a lot of it has to do with what are you seeing throughout training camp with Paris Campbell? Is he able to stay healthy? Because Howie Roseman has proven, whether it be acquiring a Ronald Darby or whether it be acquiring a C.J. Gardner-Johnson or even a Robert Quinn at the trade deadline a couple of seasons ago, he's going to leave no stone unturned in fortifying the roster, trying to improve it in some form or fashion. So if they're not happy with what they're seeing, if they have any questions or trepidation about the depth, you have to imagine they're going to look outside the organization. Paris Campbell has been a very streaky player in his career. He struggled with injuries. He had a really good 2022 season, but I think you have to look at it. Was that the exception or was that the rule? But, for what it's worth, and it was just one practice, John, I thought that the timing between Jalen Hurts and Paris Campbell was something that was one of my prominent takeaways because Jalen doesn't always have that immediate rapport with a new weapon, and he peppered him with targets on these comeback routes, which kind of carried over from minicamp where they seem to have a rapport there. But I think I'm with you. I do think that when the dust settles, they're going to have to look outside to add a receiver to really make that group as strong as it can be.
Like you said, it's just one practice. Isaiah Rodgers lined up as the other starting corner opposite side of Darius Slay. Do you make anything of that? Is this Isaiah Rodgers' job to lose, or do you think that was more so just day one, so they're mixing and matching as the camp goes on?
It's interesting because I think if you're Vic Fangio, you want to put somebody in that has played a lot of football and maybe see what things look like. Because during the spring, Isaiah and Keely Ringo were interchangeable, but Isaiah got the first team reps initially, but Ringo also worked in there, and even Quinyon Mitchell to a lesser degree worked in there as well. So to me, it seems like he's really trying to gauge the strengths of his personnel, what different looks that he likes, what they bring to, in terms of skill set. But I think Isaiah Rodgers, having played a lot of football, there's a comfortability there playing opposite Darius Slay. But he's a different type of player than what you have in Quinyon Mitchell and Keely Ringo. But I think that Isaiah has proven that he's going to be a ball hawk on that other side. The question that I have, though, is he going to remain the starter when the pads come on and all of a sudden you have to tackle a running back on the outside or you have to handle the physicality of an A.J. Brown lining up in front of you? Is he going to be that same player that's able to be as reactive and instinctual as we've seen?
Are you thinking that did you see or hear anything out of Nick Sirianni where you believe change, taking a different approach to how he does things is really something that we're going to be able to understand and see, or is it just talking points?
I think it can be a tangible thing, John, sure. I think you see every time Nick Sirianni's had the opportunity to speak, you get the sense that he has the understanding of what's entailed with his role and his role in the demise of last season. And I really do believe that you're going to see a coach that not only is more cognizant to what's going on around him, but he's going to be able to push all the right buttons and being able to oversee the whole team. I think you're going to see a lot of those issues from last season alleviated, and I don't really believe that any of those issues are going to surface again.
All right, last thing before we let you go, Andrew, we always appreciate your time. I know this is kind of an open-ended question, but I would love your answer on it. Who really popped off yesterday at training camp in day one? Was there somebody that you said that guy won the day for the Philadelphia Eagles?
I thought Paris Campbell had a really good day. I thought Saquon Barkley had a really good day. And then defensively, Zach Bond made a couple of nice plays. He had a nice breakup on C.J. Uzomah down the middle of the field. So those are three guys off the top of my head that I thought really showed well.
Andrew, you're the man. We appreciate as always,
and we're going to continue to be patient with you.
Yes,
I was going to say there's no patience discourse here. You missed that.
Yeah, I got to just throw it in before we get out.
Yeah, please.
I refuse to take your advice. And that's not the first time in life that I haven't. But it is. I refuse to take your advice. I will not be patient with this offense.
Well, that's your prerogative, John. But I would say, but I am obviously on the opposite side of the fence, just seeing things in a more measured approach, being as, you see the team develop in front of you, and you know some of the challenges that are going to be in front of the Eagles. And I just think that, yeah, I know you've pointed to the L.A. Chargers last season and how they got off to a fast start, but they really didn't.
Offensively, though?
Not really. They didn't get off to fast starts. I thought that they were a really plodding offense. They were able to finish games, but they started 0-2. So, these are just some of the things you have to take into account when you're looking at a new offense. You're trying to get everybody on the same page, and you can still win football games, and you can still move the football, but it may not look the way that it will in October or November, and that's why I always say you have to be patient.
Be patient with the defense, too?
Well, when you have a coordinator who's done it for 40 years and the Eagles have been running...
No, I'm going to be patient with him, but you didn't seem like you're going to be patient with the defense.
No, because they've been running variations of that scheme since 2021, and a lot of those same players are still here, and you have some veteran players that were still here from that Super Bowl team. So I think that you have to give them less leeway than you're giving the offense.
It's amazing. We will not see eye to eye on that one at all, Andrew.
We finally found something we got a little
it's unbelievable, man. But, hey, like you said, it's your prerogative. It's your opinion. It's your belief. Whatever
it's okay,
you think
Andrew,
it works.
They can both be wrong.
Oh, yeah, get out of here. Andrew, we appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you again next week.
You got it, guys. Take care.
There he is, Andrew DiCecco from Inside the Birds. Let's continue that discussion, but I want to get some input from you guys at 610-632-0975. You know how we feel. John and I are not going to be patient with the offense. We'll be a little bit more patient with the defense. I'd rather not be patient, period. Hey, play in the preseason, play in training camp. Be ready for week one.
Yes.
That sounds kind of cool. Be ready for your first day on the job. You go through training at any job, and then it's your first day. Things can happen. Mess-ups can happen. But ultimately, you should be prepared in case those mess-ups happen. But there are people like Connor, and there are people like Andrew DiCecco who says, be patient. They got it. Let them figure it out.
Sounds participation trophy-ish to me.
We love more of your responses on that and our initial topic about issues that may linger. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic on this Wendy's Thursday morning. We have another $50 Wendy's gift card to give away. We will do it at some point this segment. It's a guarantee until I forget. But at some point this segment, we will give away a $50 Wendy's gift card, our third of the day. By the way, coming up at 9 o'clock, Kevin Negandhi will be joining the show. Can't wait to talk to Kevin as we do most Thursdays. He's
got a lot of Kevs, Andrews, a lot of like.
Yeah, that's right. I haven't thought about that.
Yeah, mixing some new names.
Mix up the names in here. Yeah.
Can we have a Connor guest one time?
No. Connor Barwin, welcome anytime.
James Connors.
Well, that wouldn't be confusing.
Does it have
Connor
to be
McDaniel.
Connor McDavid.
Connor McDavid.
A lot of great Connors.
Yeah, and
I'm just saying.
You're in like the bottom half.
I'll play some calls.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, use your first name connection. All right, I want to check the text line because we've had a couple of topics. We opened up the show talking about the issues from last season and whether or not you believe they will linger. And issues can be 1, 2, 10, 50 issues, whatever you think. What are the issues that might linger into this season? I believe that a lot of them, if not all of them, will be gone. The issues specific to the 2023 Philadelphia Eagles. And one of those issues was the potential beef between Hurts and Sirianni that seems to have been squashed, and it seems like they were mature, professional, and man enough yesterday to just talk about it and not overthink it. Like, I think Hurts overthought his initial answer when he cut off the question.
He did, because other than that, he had a great day behind the mic.
Let's play, I think it's cut 5, Connor. Let's play Hurts when he was asked again about his relationship with Nick Sirianni, because at first he cut off the reporter and just tried saying something. I think he overthought it. This one, it was a follow-up question about him and Nick Sirianni, and this one was much better.
It's fine. It's talking on the things that we need to talk about together, And when it comes to Kellen, I talk to the things I need to talk about with him. But I think you guys have known me well enough and have gotten a feel for me better enough to know that anything and everything that I do is for the betterment of the team, and that's trying to win. And so, I think if everybody has that mentality within their role, then we'll be fine.
And I thought that was a good answer. Like, he doesn't have to go, I love Nick Sirianni.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
He doesn't have to do that.
He did a nice job yesterday. I think Nick's first answer and Jalen's first answer were the worst answers they gave all day.
Yeah, the rest of the press conferences were great.
I was really impressed, and I think Nick was actually a little bit better. Just brevity is not his friend. It's just not his friend. It never gets any better.
Yeah, and I just think they wanted to get that out of the way, and maybe they thought about it too much. Like, we've all done that. We've all thought about what we're going to say. Oh, I'm going to go to my boss, and I'm going to ask for a raise, and then you sit down in front of me and you go,
you start having
can I have more money?
You're sitting at a bar and you see a pretty girl, and in your head you got the perfect line, and you walk over there and you put your foot in your mouth.
And you go, Connor, my name is. And then
exactly.
Right,
I've been trying to fix that problem.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an issue.
And you'll fix that one, man. We'll keep on working on that one together.
But it does happen.
Yeah, it does. It does,
but it never gets better with Nick. And I'm surprised he has not gotten better media coaching.
I think that's just who he is at this point.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. All right, what do we have on the text line, Connor? You can text the show. Call in at 610-632-0975.
Faye from Pottstown checks in and has a very interesting thought based on Jalen Hurts' demeanor is what she's looking at here, and says that part of what's keeping her focused, Jalen's demeanor is what puts me at ease, that the drama off the field won't be an issue this season. He seemed relaxed and ready to move on for the sake of winning as a team in the press conference. That's all she needed.
See, the only problem...
I do like that answer, though, from her.
It's a nice answer. The only problem is, I don't know what his demeanor is, dude.
He's so guarded, and...
They could be up 50-0, and it's him just sitting there. They could be down 50-0. He's just sitting there. He has the same monotone voice when he speaks, but what he says behind a microphone is not how he speaks to his teammates. I'm sure it's not how he speaks to his friends.
What do we know? And enough accredited members of the media who are very respected have said it. Teammates had problems with him last year.
Yes. Because when times were tough, they looked at him.
You expect him to speak up and be able to be the leader at that.
And I thought the answers yesterday.
I thought he did a really good job.
He showed. You know how we celebrated Joel Embiid during the Knicks series when he wasn't blaming other people and it seemed like he started putting
Yes.
some blame on himself. That was Hurts yesterday. Like that was a press conference where it wasn't just Hallmark answers. It wasn't, you mentioned the fortune cookie. Like I feel like he spoke like a human yesterday.
I actually didn't mind that at all. Like I was actually pretty impressed by that.
It was a good. It was a good.
It was a good.
It was a good.
I think it was
day,
a good
man.
job on his part.
All right, what else do we got, Connor?
We also have a check-in here from Trevor and Percy saying, hey, last time someone lost power and had to regain it, Howie Roseman, we won a Super Bowl. Shouldn't we look at this more positively as maybe a motivation for Nick Sirianni to do a great job this year?
I have no problem. I didn't want him gone, so I couldn't agree with that gentleman more. I've seen Nick Sirianni guide a team to the 2-minute warning of a Super Bowl tied with a chance to win. I have no concerns that he can't figure this out.
Yeah, I mean,
he can figure it out.
It's not like he lost power. He wasn't calling the plays. It was his offense, and it is now Kellen Moore's offense. So if that's what we're talking about in terms of...
He's lost power between last year and this year.
Yeah,
it's well documented he's taking a step back.
I think it's a little bit... like, Howie got kicked to the broom closet by
You
Chip.
can't take the head coach off the field. He's a GM. You can move the GM's office. You can't change where the head coach is.
Right. So, I mean, I don't know. Did he... I don't know if there's he's going to gain power. Like, I don't think he will. Like, I don't
think he gets any back.
Like, I think he's just going to be who he is. And who he is might be good enough.
Yes.
It was good enough 2 years ago. To your point, John, it was good enough 2 years ago. Maybe losing power is best for him.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not losing power and then eventually he regains it. Maybe he should just lose power. And maybe I'm not trying to be funny. Like, maybe he's good at that. Mike Tomlin
He's great at losing power.
Tomlin doesn't call plays. And it's not like he's lost coordinators after all the years of success and then he started picking up play calling duties and then it wasn't good, so he reverted back. He has remained the same. Same with John Harbaugh, right?
Yeah.
Like, they've remained the same. Maybe Sirianni should have less power.
Yeah, I got the only difference being, like, when we start, and I keep hearing the Harbaugh thing, I keep hearing the Tomlin thing. Tomlin is the boss of the offense coordinator. Tomlin is the boss. None of his coordinators have say over him. He tells them what to do. So does John Harbaugh. It's a completely different situation.
I imagine Nick Sirianni has final say.
I don't believe that he's saying to him, I don't want you. Kellen Moore's been brought in here to run his offense.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that if it came down to a 3rd and 2, Nick Sirianni could go, yeah, I want you to throw the ball here instead of running it. I do believe that kind of overrule.
Yeah, so that's
power,
final say.
He's the
but
head
they
coach,
do not.
yeah.
But they do not. Final say would be, you're going to do what I'm telling you to do. In here, he's not telling Vic Fangio what to do on defense at all. And guess what? Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh are absolutely doing that.
Yeah.
Saying, here's what I want, implement it. Here's what I want, give me this
Also,
style
a lot
of defense.
more pedigree over.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, how long Tomlin's been there now?
Yes.
It's been double-digit
I
years.
think it's 35 years.
And you know what, though? For
Feels
Mike
like
Tomlin, I think Mike Tomlin's got one playoff win in a decade.
Yeah, he really...
Like, honestly. Like, Mike Tomlin's always held up, and I'm a big fan of Tomlin, but he's held up as, like, the gold standard, and honestly, we would have run him out of this town by
We
now.
would have.
He would have been run out
We
by now.
100% would have in this town. Maybe that's not a good thing.
And maybe
I don't
it's
know.
not a good thing.
Because I think Tomlin's still a hell of a head coach. It's just, look, they had Kenny Pickett, which didn't work out. Ben Roethlisberger when he couldn't move anymore. And that's why they stopped winning football games.
That's why the quarterback's more important than the head coach.
But
yes. I think
it absolutely has a big part.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think what you're saying, though, Andy, is basically like to Nick Sirianni, stay in your bag. If you do this well, you do that.
Right.
And that's all you need to do. And we're going to create this position more tailor-made to what you can do and take away what you have proven you are not great at doing. And he can live in that space. Maybe not try and advance out of it, like return to calling plays offensively, but just excel in that role and do everything he can.
Right. And eventually Kellen Moore will leave, and whoever the new offensive coordinator is, let them do their job.
Let them do their work.
Whereas last year, I still believe Brian Johnson was underqualified. The people that say
Nothing changes with that.
the people that say Brian Johnson was a scapegoat because it was Nick Sirianni's offense, look, part of that is true, but I don't believe Brian Johnson was somebody that I all of a sudden would have trusted to change the offense.
The league spoke on Brian Johnson.
And Kellen Moore has history in this league where he has been successful, so it's easy to say, Kellen, you got this. Whoever the next offensive coordinator will be, they might have to be creative. It might have to be some college mind or something. Because let's face it, Kellen Moore might be gone in a year. If they have success this year,
Kellen Moore may be gone.
he might be gone after this season.
That is
right?
correct.
And so that next year, that means Nick Sirianni should still remain the position that he has now and allow another offensive coordinator to come in here with ideas that benefit this team.
Yep. I think it's fair.
You want it to be 7 this time, John?
7.
I can't go a week where it's not.
I love 7.
Caller number 7 to the contest line, 215-263-0975. We'll win our third of 4 $50 Wendy's gift cards. Wendy's, absolutely love you. Love your breakfast burrito. Love everything that you have.
Love you, Wendy's.
You can try their new way to nug. Try Wendy's new saucy nugs today, open till midnight or later at participating U.S. Wendy's. Hours may vary by location. As promised, this segment I did it. Third $50 Wendy's gift card out the door right now. The call number 7, 215-263-0975. Coming up next, we get to more of your text messages, but I want to play something for you from Saquon Barkley. We played so much of Hurts and Sirianni because of obviously the drama that led up to yesterday's press conferences. Saquon Barkley said something that we celebrated Paul George for. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Now, a Birds Insider update on 97.5.
you have a nice Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday, a payday fanatic Friday tomorrow, Johnny.
Okay, that works out really well.
It's always a big day in the Salciunas household, and then it goes out the window in about 5 seconds because of Cooper. But, you do what you got to do. Coming up at 9 o'clock, our friend Kevin Negandhi will be joining the show. Love talking to Kevin because we can bounce all over the place with the Philadelphia sports scene when Kevin joins us, and I wonder if he'll be proud of my NCAA success as we advance in the college football playoff. We will be battling LSU approximately 11:30 this morning, maybe 12 o'clock noon.
So we're going up against Shaq's alma mater.
Yeah. Well, it's your alma mater. That's all you care about.
Yeah, but it's
Temple
me
U.
versus Shaq.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to place a little wager.
Let him know how it goes.
You better beat him.
I'm going to do my best, man. It's also Ben Simmons' alma mater. Saquon Barkley also spoke. Believe it or not, like other people on the Eagles were at training camp. It was not just Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. Other people were at training camp. There was a practice, and other players spoke. Now, Saquon Barkley, first half of his press conference was fascinating because it was a lot of the hard knock stuff. And he had no idea that his phone call was being recorded, which is crazy.
Aren't you legally supposed to disclose that?
I don't know that I'm buying it. I really don't. I'm not known. First of all,
he was not in the building anymore.
Whenever you are on a call with someone that's on a speakerphone and you're discussing something that is business-wise or otherwise, don't you find that suspicious? Wouldn't you ask, are we alone here? Is this just me and you?
Andrew may have been burned on that
Literally
once.
told you guys a story the other day.
No, I'm saying is that I would ask every time, like, why are we on speakerphone?
How do I know that you're on speakerphone?
You can hear it. You can't hear when someone's on speakerphone?
Nah, I can hear it on the ear. I can't hear it when I'm on the actual personal phone.
I have cussed on the phone, and my wife has said, I'm on speaker.
You say cuss words?
Yeah.
Do you really? We gotta get
because I'm not allowed to during the show, so that I have to let it all out after the show ends. But, yeah, I don't know. Like, I believe Saquon Barkley had no idea. I imagine, as a football player, you know that a team is on Hard Knocks, but you're probably not thinking that your off-season conversations are a part of it.
Yeah.
When did the Eagles get Saquon?
March 1st.
Right. So, do you think he knew that he was really on a recorded
I got to tell you,
TV show? Phone call in March?
I know business. I absolutely can tell when someone's on a speakerphone.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if it's just here, if it's hearing or otherwise. And I would be like, why are we on speaker?
All right. Well,
like, just in case, especially if it's tentative, I don't know.
And even if you don't catch it, to Connor's point, they should probably disclose it.
I would think they should.
Now, Saquon did say, I'm sure they edited certain things to make it seem more dramatic. They could have made him look worse, is what he said with his own words yesterday. I don't know what the conversation was all about.
Obviously, it didn't go well.
No, I'm sure it didn't. I know, from somebody that used to work for a leagues network, I won't say which one.
Sure.
They have red tape, which is do not let this go to air. And so maybe there was some red tape from that phone call.
There very well
because
could be.
They want to also protect. Look, they're NFL production. They want to protect the player. They want to protect everybody. So Saquon yesterday was talking a lot about the Hard Knock stuff, but he said something that was very reminiscent to what Paul George said the other day. That we celebrated Paul George saying, "Hey, I don't need to come here and take all the shots and score 30. I just want to come here and win." Saquon Barkley said the same thing about the Eagles' offense.
I'm bought in. My mindset when I came here is I decided to come to this team because I know the team could help me for my legacy, for my career, and I know we had an opportunity to go out there and win games. And, yes, at one point was our focal point, and I know there will be times this season where there might be games where, they're going to hand the ball off to 2-6, and I got to try to take over the game. There might be games where I got to sit back and watch A.J. Brown do what he do or Devontae Smith. So whatever it takes, that's what it is about. That's all I'm about, buying in, and whatever it takes to win games is what I'm willing to do.
I love that, and I believe it.
Love the answer.
He played for a Giants team that was trash. His entire career, the Giants have sucked. They made the playoffs one time with Saquon Barkley. They, to their credit, beat the Minnesota Vikings and then got spanked by the Eagles. Saquon Barkley has never seen real success in the NFL. And I think he truly feels that way. He goes, I've been the focal point. I'm now ready to fill into a certain role. There will be games where I'll have to lead the charge, but I'll also be open to A.J. Brown having a 15-catch game. I love that answer.
And he didn't see team success at Penn State either. So, I mean, he's a guy who really is thirsty for it.
Yeah.
He really wants it.
Absolutely. I thought that was a great answer.
Yeah, I think he has an infectious energy to him.
Yes, he is.
Big smile, but he can get very sort of stone-faced and driven in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And he's been a guy that has, again, just like Paul George, another star that was acquired, has said everything pretty close to perfect as can be. I love what he said about Jalen Hurts. He talked about Jalen Hurts, the leader that he is. Look, they've worked out together in the offseason. That's one of the things that I don't think Jalen Hurts, and we kind of talked about this the other day, I don't think Jalen Hurts and some of the Eagles players have gotten enough credit for it. The workouts outside of OTAs. There's pictures as of, last week? The week before training camp of guys getting together and doing drills together? Like, that's freaking awesome.
Love seeing it because that kind of communication, that kind of camaraderie, it helps.
And it shows that everybody seems to be bought in. And look, they don't have to do it. If somebody didn't show up to those individual workouts, whatever.
Sure.
But it's good to see that many players getting together, man. All right, coming up next, Kevin Negandhi will join the show. We'll then reset it all. And coming up at 9:40, I believe he'll be on time. Vic Fangio will speak to the media. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Fangio set to speak. I'm Connor Thomas, and this update.
Dude,
5-week
half would be June. That's why it's dumb.
It is dumb.
Anyways,
Very dumb.
welcome into Kincade and Salciunas. We appreciate you all listening. Hope you had a safe trip into work today. Make sure your Thursday's amazing, just like ours has been so far, talking Eagles football and enjoying Wendy's breakfast burritos. We have one more $50 Wendy's gift card to give away at some point this hour. We will let you know exactly when to call into the contest line, but right now we're going to the Comcast Business Hotline, where every day in business is a big day. Let Comcast Business help you move forward with what's next. From ESPN, does a tremendous job on the 6 o'clock Sports Center and coming to college football near you.
Oh, yes, he
Kevin
is.
Negandhi joins us. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning, fellas. How we doing?
Dude, we are in a high spirit today because football is back in Philadelphia. Training camp started yesterday, and it seemed like the beef was squashed, at least publicly, between Sirianni and Hurts, and I can't be more thankful for that.
Yeah, well, I think beef can get squashed when you don't have any games, right? Let's see how everybody responds, especially the head coach emotionally, if there's a lull or there's a 2 or 3 game, where the offense is flat. Let's see how the head coach handles it. I think everybody's curious about that. Can you handle the highs and the lows balance? Can you have awareness? And at the same time, what are you going to do when you don't have control of the offense? Because it's clear the offense belongs to Kellen Moore. How are you going to handle that?
Do you still believe, though, okay, it's a 17-17 game, late third quarter. Eagles in a 3rd and 3. Kellen Moore wants to throw the ball. Nick Sirianni wants to maybe try a run play. Do you think he has the right to overrule?
I think Nick Sirianni has the right to overrule because he's the head coach of the team, and that's the power that they gave the head coach. And also, let's consider this: Kellen Moore is still in year 1 as the OC, so he's got to build a certain trust with his play calling. I find that interesting, though, John, on if it works or doesn't work. Right?
Correct.
If it doesn't work and Sirianni makes that call, what happens? Where does that lead us? Where does that lead the quarterback with the trust on the head coach making the final decision? Does that mean suddenly do we see an audible on the field? I'd be curious because I heard many audibles were made or attempted to be made last year, and they were not in line on how the game plan was going week in and week out, especially in the second half of the season.
Kevin, I don't know how much you were able to digest the Jalen Hurts press conference yesterday, but one of the big things that people have reported on, not just, callers and radio hosts, people have reported that people inside NovaCare wanted Jalen Hurts to work on his leadership qualities. Based off of a press conference, it did sound like he took a bit of a step forward yesterday.
Yeah, and I think, listen, let's not forget the situation where Jalen walked in, where he was the guy that was the backup to Carson Wentz. How do you build the trust of the locker room? You communicate one-on-one with everybody. You have the workouts that he had. You form a bond with the offensive line. But also, let's not forget the veterans that were on this offensive line over the last 4 years. So it's finding your place, finding your voice, but at the same time being aware of, okay, it's got to pick up. But Jalen's not one of those. He's never been. If you look at the history, he's never been one of those rah-rah guys, ever. He's not gonna feed you any BS and verbally, right? So I think when he does speak, it comes with weight. So I think it's the first step, and I also think it's recognizing that there's a void here, and I've got to fill it and understand that my role is bigger and bigger, but considering the checks that are being cut to me, considering the role in this offense, considering how critical I am to the team, I think you're going to see a bigger play here by Jalen, bigger than you've ever seen, because I think that he was pretty upset how the offense was showcased and how they couldn't maximize his skill set last year. And when I say maximize it, too, I'm fully aware that the knee couldn't maximize his own skill set either. But I think it was a combination, the perfect storm of a lot of frustration coming to a boil last year.
How much do you love seeing Dallas and San Francisco dealing with off-field garbage that potentially is polluting their, preparations for the season?
To your point, John, it just blows me away about the Cowboys' approach. because here we have Howie Roseman getting Devontae, already got the quarterback locked up, getting Devontae locked up along with A.J. Brown. That's 1 and 1A wide receivers, right? And they still can't figure it out in Dallas with CeeDee Lamb. And then the drop-off from CeeDee to the next person is dramatically different. And this whole thing, they did the same song and dance with Dak before, and it crushed them. I just don't understand why in Dallas their approach is the way it is, specifically on, hey, we're going to drag it out with our stars, and it's going to be the storyline. It's like they are allergic to everybody getting along and everybody being happy. They like being the headlines regardless, especially the owner, right?
Yes.
As for San Francisco, their approach is really interesting because they've got a window. Think about it. Brock Purdy's making $1 million, literally $1 million on their cap hit this year. They're going to eventually have that price tag is going to be due. When you look at the stars that are due at the end of 2025, Debo, Kittle, and of course, Ayuk being upset right now, they feel like we've got to nail this window right now with Purdy's money being at $1 million. And if we can't, then we've got to blow the whole thing up. When I say blow it up, that means by Debo, potentially trying to figure out how you can get Kittle to fit in. And they've got to make a decision with Ayuk. The entire approach, though, means a locker room that has to answer questions about a. I think then that festers, man. I really do. I really believe it. And I think the messaging will be, hey, let's figure it out this year. Let's figure it out this year. Let's figure it out this year. But it just makes me appreciate how he has managed the cap, and they have figured things out. They've gotten young at impactful positions. They've kind of rewarded the guys that have come through the system. And bottom line, the Eagles' success will come down to the draft picks and the investments that they've made the last 3 years. That's on the offensive line and the defensive line and in the secondary.
So off of all of that, Kevin, it's harder for Eagles fans that live and die Eagles football, and I know you do too, but you do 6 o'clock Sports Center. You know the other teams. You study the other teams. You focus on the other teams. Seeing that other teams have dysfunction, does that almost make you feel better about the issues that we saw with the Eagles last year? Because I think a lot of people are so deep in the weeds with the Eagles that they don't think about other teams having issues. Does it help you, someone who studies the rest of the league, think about, hey, you know what, maybe it's not as bad in Philadelphia as I thought?
Fair point on all of that. But I also think Eagles fans understand that there's a window, right? You have a window. And when you taste a little bit of the success that they had, a lot of the success, I should say, over the last 18 months, where you're making the trip to the Super Bowl, you start the season 10-1. The frustration is the awareness of that window closing and closing, especially when you see a team like the Lions, especially when you see a team like the Packers, especially when you just never know when it's going to be the 49ers run. And Dallas is always there, right? So I think that you're right. You get caught in that Eagles bubble, that Philadelphia region bubble, unaware of everything on the outside to a certain point. But then when you're so close and you get a little taste, the frustration boils over saying, hey, we were 10-1. It was wide open and set up for us of all the years, right? Every team, it felt like, looked vulnerable in the NFC, and we couldn't take full advantage of that. I think that's the frustrating part that carries over with the Eagles, because the expectations are, hey, everybody else has their own problems, but we have a certain expectation with this team right now in this window.
Are you concerned in the least about the Phillies being one game over 500 since London?
I'm very concerned.
So you really are.
But
I'm surprised by it.
I will tell you this. Here's the reason, the messaging. When everybody saw the way the Phillies started this year, I was like, this is great because you need this padding because they're going to hit a lull. So I'm not surprised about the lull. The lull happens to every team. You play 162 games. It's just a question of, does it happen in April, May, June, or do you hit this wall in July or August, right? I would, if there was a time to have the lull, I would think that this is the perfect time. You want to know why? It leads right into the deadline, and the trade has to be made. And Dombrowski is one of those guys that does not sit there patiently and wait. He understands windows, right? And the Phillies are in that window of we've got to win now. So I think the exposure that we're seeing where we all kind of have the rumblings they need to get some bullpen help. We all feel it, and they need to get outfield help. It's been exposed over the last month and a half that they need another top-line reliever, and they need to figure out the outfield. They have to. Marsh could have caught that ball yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Should have. Not could have.
Run double.
Should have.
Yeah, that was a killer two-run double. I mean, it changed the whole game, right?
Yeah.
And then you can't shut it down at the end. So I think it exposes the things right before the deadline where you have to make a move. You can make a move, and then when you make the move, potentially, it adds an extra juice going into August and September. It helps that the team below you has lost 4 straight, and they're going to have to scrap it out in a 4-game set with the Mets soon, which is fantastic. But I think it just gets them back to the refocus of, hey, what's the whole point of this? Home field in the NL, that's what you necessarily need. We all see the impact at the bank in October, and we want the Dodgers to come here to try to play 7.
Kevin, you're the man. We appreciate it as always, and I just want to let you know, not that I'm sure you already know.
Got to hear this.
Less than 1 month away till week 0.
There you go.
Man, I can't wait, guys.
Less than 1 month away.
To you guys about it. I can't wait to talk about it.
Kevin.
You just let me know, and I'll be ready to go. I'm pumped up for the football season. Let's enjoy the final month of peace, and then let's rev it up.
Damn right, Kevin. You're the man. We appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you, buddy.
Fellas, be good.
There he is, Kevin Negandhi on the Comcast Business Hotline.
The last month of peace, we do have it, too. We do have it because I'll get a tweet every single day when the Phillies lose a game going, are you worried yet?
I was going to say, is this peace?
I said, absolutely, I am not concerned.
So I put out a tweet yesterday, and this is truly how I feel, and I love that Kevin said it. So it was after the loss yesterday. It sucked. It was
right.
bad. Like, Brandon Marsh missing that ball
that was terrible.
Inexcusable. You got to make that play. They lose the game. I tweet out the following. Excited for the Phillies to make moves before the deadline, like we all said they would before opening day, and realize that everything will be okay.
Well, the thing with that is that, any team, the Phillies, we should always expect them to be making moves at the deadline because they're expected to be a contender. With that payroll, with that talent, with that pedigree, they should be. It doesn't mean that this team still has – there are things under Rob Thompson they just don't get better at. They've had 2 horrendous days on the base paths, which is inexcusable.
Boy, Rojas.
Inexcusable. He wasn't even out, though. He wasn't even out. I mean, you can't. They wouldn't overrule it, but I don't think he was out. Let's put it this way. But you can't. But as I tweeted, you can't put yourself in a position where it's that close. The Trey Turner running into the out at second base when the ball was already coming in as he's rounding first. The ball's coming in from the outfield. You got to pay attention. Yesterday, Castellanos getting picked off. It's just they're a lazy mental team on the base paths. Lazy mentally. They make dumb mistakes, and I don't know what that was with Marsh yesterday.
No, that was atrocious.
That was atrocious.
Like that,
They say 96% of the ESPN thing when they showed the highlights on SportsCenter. It's like 96% of the time that ball's caught.
Yeah, and look, he'll catch it the next 9 times, but still, it's like
come on.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to not catch it.
You're a Major League Baseball.
Yeah, but we never,
player, man.
You rarely ever see any outfielder not catch that ball.
That ball
it
hung up
forever.
too. Yeah, it's not like it was he's catching on the run. He had time.
I don't
he
like
had time
those,
to settle under.
No, I got you. I don't like those percentage catch.
No,
plays.
I know. I don't listen to it either.
That's not dependent, I don't believe, on stadium comfortability with where the wall's at. Like that's a situation.
Should that have been an uncomfortable catch?
Forget the statistic. Your eye test. That ball should be caught.
Yes, it should be caught. But it doesn't. Watching that wasn't a 94 or 96 or whatever percent of the time a guy catches that ball.
But you should that building should make you uncomfortable.
Well, dude, you're not used to where the wall. Do you know what it's like to run full speed?
Well, that's for every game on the road.
But he wasn't totally going full speed.
And he wasn't full speed.
And his center fielder hopefully was communicating with him, letting him know how much room he had.
I understand all of that. I'm just saying there are points where you hit the warning track in a field that you're not used to. Like if that's Citizens Bank Park, it's a completely different story.
Because he knows the field.
Exactly.
And we've seen him do it.
Yes. But
every player plays
half
half their games on the road.
Right, in some stadiums that you're more used to than others.
Bryce Harper
never played a game at Target Field before this series.
Half your games on the road, but 3 of them at one stadium.
Right.
Like it's, you're split up all over the place.
All my point is I don't think it was like that's a sure catch for everyone, but it's a catch he needs to make.
He's got to make.
You got a lot of. I got to tell you this though, Connor. I'm just being honest with you. You got a lot of cover your ass when it comes to Marsh. You take when you have a lot of cover up for Marsh.
I do. I think he's a much better player than people give him credit for.
I think he's a good player.
I think he's a platoon player.
I think he's a good player. He's a platoon guy. He's proven he's a platoon
That's
guy.
how I felt when they first got him.
Listen, man, he's an above-average defender, and I had to fight with people. He is absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, an above-average defender at the major league level. I fought you tooth and nail on this for a year. Everybody said it. McCarthy said it. Stark has said it. Like, you can talk to anybody. Everybody will tell you he's an above-average defender. I have to defend him because people treat him like he's a run-of-the-mill.
He is not a defensive replacement guy.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, absolutely is.
For whom?
I don't know. Weston Wilson?
Not Johan Rojas, but
right. I mean, is that there are when you say above-average fielders, Johan Rojas is the above-average.
No, he's an elite.
He's elite.
Yeah. Okay, now you're making all different levels.
Well, it depends on what you believe.
Is it Brandon
There's
Marsh?
elite, there's above average, there's average, there's below average,
Brandon Marsh has a lot of moments, and I can just go to Game 5 of the World Series.
You've already said John, have already said you don't like him as a center fielder.
No, I like him in left
and you think he's a great left fielder.
I'm fine with him in left field. Yesterday was
unfortunately
another.
the play happened yesterday.
Right, he did not make the play he needed to make. That's the bottom line.
And he's a platoon player, not because of his glove. He's a platoon player because of his bat.
And his bat is
can't hit left-handed pitching.
Not getting anything done.
That's
exactly
what the platoon is.
And I don't know, like, when I watch the at-bats he puts together, I think he should get more of an opportunity at the plate.
If they moved Brandon Marsh in a deal, would you be upset?
I would be. But
I would not be.
I would not be.
I would be more for the locker room than I would be for the I don't know that there's a player that you're getting that's substantially better to the point where you're bringing a guy that clearly means so much to that locker room out of the equation. The same reason they didn't send Stubbs down when Marchand was the option.
Right, I got you.
Like, you'd have to get Mike Trout. You'd have to get...
No, he doesn't play.
All right, John.
He's talking about level of
20.
talent.
I got you.
You're not trading him for Thomas from the Nationals.
I'm not trading him for Jazz Chisholm.
Even though Thomas would be the better part of that platoon.
Well, he's right.
He'd be the better.
Would he be?
Yeah, but he'd the better. Yes, he would. He'd be the better part of that platoon. They are every bit as good defender, and offensively, I think he's a better.
This year and is batting like 249.
I think he's a better bat guy.
He's batting like 200 against
honestly,
righties.
I think they're identical.
Yeah,
from the opposite side. I think they're the same player.
Similar, but if they're the same player, then Lane Thomas hit like 28 bombs last year. That's what I'm saying. Like, Brandon Marsh's upside, people don't give him credit for. That's why I defend him.
I need to see more.
Because the upside hasn't really shown.
Yeah, I need to see this upside.
The team has told you that by not playing him against.
And I think the team is wrong. This is the one thing that I'll fight the Phillies on.
140 against lefties.
What are you going to do?
I don't know. I got to check what his career.
I think Marsh very much. We got to go into Connor. We'll do the 23andMe. There's a Marsh somewhere in his tree.
He's a career .211 hitter against lefties.
Okay, that's it.
I got you.
That's
seriously.
That's 318 at bats. That's not just the Phillies. That's the Angels too.
And we're not getting to is that I don't know how. I mean, he must be wearing the invisible bulletproof vest. The cone of just
Bryson
Stott's killing him. Defensively, he's spectacular.
Oh, of course he is.
But offensively, he's lost.
Well.
And he's having bad at bats.
When the Phillies trade for a starting center fielder that can also hit, Bryson Stott's your new Rojas. He just is great at fielding, but has more upside offensively than Johan Rojas.
And fits better when you don't have multiple holes in the lineup.
Right. And bats like 5th or 6th in the order at times. All right, real quick. I just saw something random. So training camp is a time where veterans who are still trying to make it or still remain in the league are, on rosters, because 90-man rosters. Mike Kay, who used to cover the Eagles, he's in Carolina now. He covers the Panthers.
Really good dude.
Posted a video. I've always liked this guy. 30 minutes before practice even started, Jordan Matthews doing some extra work.
Oh, J-Matt.
Really?
Tight end Jordan Matthews.
What? No.
What?
Yes.
What?
Tight end Jordan Matthews.
That's how you can tell their roster's crap.
He was with the Panthers last season for one game as a tight end. He was on the practice squad. They brought him up for one game. They still have him on there.
He was on their practice squad?
dude, he has played every year since he's been drafted, but it's 1 game for Carolina last year, 1 for San Francisco, 2 for San Francisco, 3 for Philadelphia. Remember, they brought him back a 3rd time? I think with Hurts, maybe. I forget.
I forgot the 3rd time.
It was 2019 where he came back for a 3rd stint. Everyone said, oh, here we go, Wentz and Jordan Matthews again, right?
That's crazy.
But, hey, good for him, man. He's only 32.
He's trying to get
I love
he's
that
trying to get his
Panthers
pension.
team.
He's trying to get his pension.
He is. Good for him, man. Hey,
smart man.
I hope he gets it.
He needs
All right.
it.
Coming up next, a little bit of a longer segment because we have a press conference to go to at 9:40. Defense coordinator Vic Fangio will speak to the media. Before that, Howie Roseman, another message from him that's been very public that I'm sure was discussed a lot about behind closed doors. We'll tell you what next. Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Coming up in about 10 minutes, Vic Fangio, defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles, will speak to the media. I believe he'll be on time. Something tells me that Vic Fangio is one of those guys that goes, you know what, 9:40, I'll be there.
Did you watch the you didn't watch much of the Hard Knocks in season with Miami?
No.
Vic Fangio's a guy, I'm just saying, 5 minutes early is on time.
So he could be even earlier is what you're saying.
That's what it was preached, that he is to the players, if you're on time, you're late. That was sort of like the
I love that.
his message.
It's just flat out not true.
I remember hearing that.
What do you mean?
Ready for this bust out? Drumline. With Nick Cannon.
If you want me there 5 minutes before the time, just tell me. I'll be on time.
I still remember. You are late if you're on time.
I've known too many people who literally enjoy just, if they're told to stroll in for a 9:30 meeting, they're putzing around at 9:29 on purpose.
Yeah,
just
see,
to
I
not
hate
be
that.
there. Well, that's why I agree with the guys, the Vic Fangios of the world.
You weren't ready for that drumline pull.
You're very proud of yourself with this drum
I saw
line.
that movie 1,000 times, and I
Did you really?
Oh yeah, dude. It was one of those. It's on.
I saw it on a plane.
It was on when I would be
I
home
turned
from
it off.
school. Come on, it was in your neighborhood, man. It was in the ATL.
I turned it off.
Come on, man.
Turned it off. Guess what? We had nothing but stupid movies and TV shows and everything disrupting my life living down there. I love living here where I can go about my normal existence and not have road closures and
Nick Cannon, a cocky snare drummer? That's awesome,
Did
dude.
you
Like
just
that's
say Philadelphia, no road closures?
No, but there was
I got stuck by a garbage truck at 4 a.m. I couldn't move.
I'm talking about you'd be driving we're closing tomorrow for Dumb and Dumberer. You know, I'm like, what the hell? I have
There's
to sit
something
in an
getting
hour
filmed in
thing?
Manayunk.
Yeah, I heard that right now.
Recently, I just saw.
It's one of the guys off of the Game of Thrones franchise.
I honestly have no
He's
idea.
in
I
on
just know that there's a movie set at Manayunk right now.
They got Wancho running the hills
I was
again?
about to
Is
say,
it
do you
Hustle
guys
too?
remember the last movie? It was Hustle. Good
Come
job.
on,
Tanner.
Somebody that my daughter wanted to meet is starring in the movie. That's what I will tell you.
I'll have to check this out.
See who it is.
All right, so Howie Roseman also spoke yesterday with Nick Sirianni because he had to be a part of it. And he talked about something that I think has been an emphasis toward Nick Sirianni. And I don't just think it, I know it because he's now been public about this a few times. Here he is on the Eagles and young talent and allowing them to play and develop.
For us, we've been very fortunate here where we've really given our young players kind of the ability to kind of develop and not play as much. I'm really excited to see the opportunity for those guys going forward because of where we are. Obviously, we have a lot of high-paid players here. There's great opportunity for young players for us going forward, and I think we have the right players here. That's one of the exciting things about this camp is seeing these young players get an opportunity to carve out a role, how significant that role is. Because I think, you look at our sport, you look at a lot of different sports, and there are opportunities for young players to develop, and you don't really know how they're going to develop and how they're going to play until they get the opportunity. And because of the teams we've had in the past couple of years, which has obviously been good, some of those young players haven't had as big a role. So I'm really excited about that and watching that. Obviously, I'm biased. We brought those guys here, but it'll be fun to watch.
Now, I find it very interesting. The tune changed a little bit. And I remember not blaming Nick Sirianni for playing vets over young players.
I did, so I feel vindicated.
So I remember saying, look, if it's a big play, who would you rather have out there? The guys that have been doing it for 10 years or Nolan Smith? I'd rather have the vets.
In week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, why are you overworking veterans
that I
when you
completely
can
agree.
get young guys into games?
Right.
And there were opportunities to do so.
Right. Look, there was an extreme. What they did last year was an
horrible.
extreme.
Horrible.
But I remember defending Nick Sirianni. Okay, I would rather turn to my veteran. It's very much like basketball when Brett Brown picked Amir Johnson over Rashawn Holmes because Amir Johnson was more of a smarter basketball, even though we all knew that Amir Johnson was cooked and that Rashawn Holmes was probably the more talented basketball player. Sometimes coaches turn to their vets before they return to their younger players. It's interesting because Sirianni, remember during the exit press conference, he said, Nick needs to know it's okay to play younger players. during that answer, he said, and look, I've noticed the last 2 years we've been really good, so they haven't had an opportunity to play. It's almost like his tune changed a little bit.
It's almost like that was a little bit of a, I'm going to cover my back for the shrapnel that I took from Howie on that one a little bit.
Well, no, Howie's the one saying
no,
it.
I understand, but it's
I think
still,
maybe
though,
Sirianni explained himself
I think
more.
Sirianni's trying, so it's like a coverage.
Yes.
It's like a coverage of it. I don't agree with it at all. I think young players got to be played. I don't want to hear about what Nolan Smith was last year. He didn't get to play.
Right.
So I mean,
nobody can tell you who Nolan Smith is.
And when I saw Nolan Smith at times, I saw flashes, and most of the time, I saw a guy that was sort of swimming a little over his head.
I saw a guy, and it killed me. I said it to Ray multiple times last season. He would beat the left tackle. He'd come around the edge, and then he'd hit the quarterback and kind of just slide off him. Like he didn't finish the play.
No, you're not in any way unfair with that.
And
the
maybe
funny
with
thing
time
is
he'd get better at that.
All I saw him do in college was finish plays.
Right, and he didn't do it
And he
last year.
didn't, and I would agree with you. It's like run through the quarterback.
Yeah, he'd make
Run
initial
through
contact,
them.
he'd bounce off him.
Almost like there's a fear that he's going to get a penalty.
Maybe.
Whereas in the SEC, he can tattoo the kid from Ole Miss and get away with it. But I get what you're saying there. And
Yeah.
I don't think that's unfair. I like seeing young players play.
Right, because it's going to give him more experience.
I want to know what we're talking about.
Right, exactly.
Does the guy have potential or not? And there were plenty of times they could have done that. They were up. I forget how many points on the Patriots. The veterans being overworked let the game slip away. There were other games like that.
And then eventually, when they do start playing him, they're having him drop back into coverage,
Right.
which is something he didn't do all that much in college.
By the way, the Manayunk movie is Task. It is the spin-off series of Mayor of Easttown.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mark Ruffalo is going to be the star of it. He's starring on it. But his co-star is from your Little Dragon show. And Olivia wanted to meet him. Fabian Frankel?
Hold on.
Kristen Cole?
yeah, he's
Kristen
Kristen Cole.
Oh, okay.
The guy who's
I know
playing
that
him.
guy, yeah.
Now, I want to see that guy from England play somebody from Delco. Because
He'd probably be
remember,
good at
these are two, because Ruffalo has had to learn the Delco accent.
Yeah, who did the Mayor of Easttown?
Kate
It was
Winslet.
Kate Winslet.
She was awesome.
And she was spectacular.
Yeah, she was
with it.
fantastic
I want to
on
see
that.
how Mark Ruffalo and this Fabian Frankel
All right.
pull it off.
Well, we'll take
Fabian
a look.
Frankel looks like he'd be hanging out on, they're going to, I'm sure they're going to dress him up like he's on McDade Boulevard. So he's, it looks like he has that hair and everything.
Yeah,
he's
he's
probably
the
from
lots.
Fatima.
All right, before we get to Vic Fangio, as we await his press conference, what do we have on the text line there, Connor? You can text the show at 610-632-0975.
Okay, hang on 1 second.
Oh, I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
I'm getting the
You're
push
off there.
notification ready for Vic Fangio
Oh,
to be
that's
live.
my bad.
Sorry, buddy.
Mark from North Philly checks in, says he thinks this is the perfect situation for the Eagles and Sirianni. Sirianni is a great motivator of people, someone who can rally guys and create a culture, and Howie and Mr. Lurie have put great coordinators in position with Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore to handle the rest. I think it's a win-win-win with the three guys you have in their current positions.
I agree with all that.
I love it.
The only thing with Sirianni is the voice still being heard. And to your point, John, we've heard that they didn't quit on him or anything like that.
And it's not from me. It's from guys who are actually around the team.
Right.
He had good support amongst his players.
Right. I just at some point, does a speech get tiresome? Does a motivational video all right, here's another motivational video for you? Because he talks about it all the time. Hey, I showed them clips of
Remember the
Kobe
Titans.
and all that kind of stuff. And he always has a message to it. From every player that has spoken on behalf of Nick Sirianni, they said all of his motivational videos tie into the message of the day, and he does it great. Apparently, it's very articulated. It's very good. It's very well thought out. I just wonder at some point, when you're in year 3, year 4, year 5, and you've heard similar messaging, right? Like the flower story was awesome, right? Does the flower story work in year 5?
No.
You know what I mean?
You can go to that. You can go to that well once.
Right.
That's a well you go to once. The corny story,
And it made sense because he was new,
And he was
there was a
first
lot
year.
of young players. So it made sense. Can you do similar goofy stories where we kind of make a mockery of it in year 4, year 5, year 6? So to the texter's point, I completely agree with you. I just hope the voice is still heard when it comes to Sirianni. All right, we waiting?
I think it's
still
going to be
waiting.
heard. I think it's going to be heard.
Mr. He's going to be on time.
Well, he will, but it's 9:40 with 20 seconds.
You know what
He's
you
still
do?
got 40 seconds.
I can thank the folks at FT Young Heating and Air Conditioning contract.
Okay.
You know that they're good people.
Damn right I
They
do.
made a donation today to the American Association for Cancer Research. You can do it too at 975thefanatic.com/AACR because cancer research saves lives.
See, now this guy's smart because normally we do that at the end of the show.
But
We
that
don't.
way, just in case.
We don't know when the show's ending.
Yeah, we don't know, and so just get that out of the way, and we thank you guys for doing that. And everybody who donates, we do appreciate you all the time. Vic Fangio, though, I'm really anxious to hear because as much as I'm excited for Kellen Moore, there is what Vic Fangio does with secondaries and how he creates intercepts the opposing offenses.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to see it.
And oh, by the way,
because this is an athletic secondary.
Right. His camp stories will be more interesting to follow than Kellen Moore's because the offense is set. We need a wide receiver 3. We need a right guard.
Right.
Defense, I don't know.
We need everything.
I want to hear why Isaiah Rodgers was lining up with first team.
Yeah,
yesterday.
I was surprised at that.
Is he lining up with the first team today because he's speaking before practice? I'm curious to find out who's going to be lining up as the opposite corner outside of Darius Slay. I want to know who is fighting for that safety battle alongside Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. James Bradbury looks like he's making the move to safety. I would love to hear about that stuff.
Here's the only question I have about Bradbury at safety. And even though last year when he did it, when he slid down and did that, he was pretty effective.
Mm-hmm.
He had a couple good games. He doesn't tackle. And isn't that part of the problems?
Unless he's a coverage safety. And
then Chauncey Gardner-Johnson tackles everybody else.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Right, okay. I get you.
It's not ideal, but
it's a deficiency. It's a deficiency of his game that you usually think you don't want a safety who is deficient in tackling.
All right, well, let's hear from Vic Fangio about what the plans are for the Eagles on day 2 of minicamp.
Competitions at certain positions. How do you go about structuring those competitions, and how much is pre-planned?
Well, you got to give them all fairly equal opportunities, and you don't want guys that right now might be listed as 2 or 3rd team not get reps with the first team against our good offense. So you're constantly manipulating their practice reps from a number standpoint, and also who they're going against. Basically, that's it.
Vic, in the spring, you had mentioned you like to throw a lot at the players early and then scale it back from there.
Yep.
I assume that continues in the training camp. Do you have a feel for when you start scaling it back, or is that sort of a field thing?
Yeah, it's a feel. We're not there yet, obviously, one day in. But basically, we told the players that whatever was installed in the spring is already in. But, we're having a focus each and every day, so they kind of know what is going to be called on that day. But what was put in the spring is, back in the day when you had 40-some practices in training camp, go very slowly and install very slowly. You can't do that anymore. You got to go. So I think I answered your question.
In New York, Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter show up in. Are they ready for maybe an increased workload compared to the rotations of the last couple years?
Yeah, I don't have a reference to compare it to, not being here before. But I do think, based on yesterday's practice, which yesterday was the first time the 2024 Eagles had any team reps, so really the first time they've done anything outside of individual drill. I thought they looked good, and I thought Jordan showed some good movement abilities, was able to bend his body that I don't think I've seen him do before, and so it's encouraging right now.
In New York, Bryce Huff was essentially a pass rush specialist. You guys have him starting here. Why do you think he'll be able to be a guy that can play on base downs?
Well, I think everybody thought he could, and knowing that the floor was just rush downs, but he's taken the challenge on very well, and I do think he has the talent to do what we want him to do. It's just he's got to get familiar with doing it, and so it will be a work in progress. Does he look like he could do it today? No, but I do think eventually he will.
Around it a little bit in the spring. How has he come back into camp? What are your impressions early in COVID?
Yeah, he didn't do much in the spring. I think he only was able to go the last 1 or 2 days. But he had a good day yesterday and was pleased with what he did show yesterday. He just looked good, movement and reactions. Same thing when you're evaluating players, draft or any free agency. Just looked good, looked like an NFL player.
Bryce isn't ready to be that guy yet. What does he need to do to become that guy?
Constantly show improvement and a feel. It's more of a feel. He has the talent to do it, but he's never been asked to do it. I don't think in college and nor with the Jets. So it's new, and he's got to become more proficient.
Early on, get a couple of reps in the slot. I guess how have you seen him adjust to that different position?
Good. He's a talented guy. He's smart. Has good football feel. All of that really is more than I thought he had just from watching the college tape. So that's been a plus. And I think he's a guy that we can move around anywhere in the coverage part.
How could you tell that he was, maybe able to move inside?
We just tried it. We just put him in there and tried it, and he looked fine.
That quarterback battle, what are you looking for? What's going to separate guys from win the job on day one?
Just play. Usually when you have battles going on and it's time to make a decision, the players made the decision for you, and everybody sees it. It's rare that it's so tight that everybody's waiting for who the coaches pick. It becomes obvious, and hopefully it will become obvious here through somebody's really good play and not somebody's bad play. So it will define itself out.
Along those lines, as you're seeing what this defense can, what's unique about this secondary in terms of the coaching?
Well, they're new. That's unique in that we have a lot of new guys there that weren't here last year, and you got a new system, and you got a new coaching staff on defense. So there's just a lot of newness, and they got to learn to play together, know the nuances of what we're doing schematically, and how to play to the guy next to them. So it's just a lot of newness.
What's your philosophy on playing rookies early in the season? Are you just going game to game? Who gives us the best chance of winning that game? Or do you try to get guys involved so that they're more prepared and ready to go?
I'm all for playing the best guys. I think if you looked at my history when we've had rookies, we've played them. And provided they're good enough. We ain't playing somebody just because they're young. If we were an expansion team like I was in two places, we might just throw them out there to see what we got. But I don't, we got more serious business here. So if they're worthy of playing, they will play.
On the other side this offseason,
go ahead.
This offseason, Howie Roseman said that he wanted to bring a little swagger back to the defense in the acquisitions that he brought in. Obviously, you weren't here last year, but when you look at your personnel, who are the guys that bring swagger?
I don't know. I don't know what swagger is to a degree. We just need guys that can play good football, winning football, and when you do that, you have swagger.
Well, on the other side of that rookie question, when you have a veteran player like James Bradbury making the shift from longtime corner to safety, you've seen that over the years, guys do that. Is there something about him that
yeah, he might be. I mean, you say that you've seen that a lot over the years. The truth is, no, you haven't. The list of guys successfully transitioning from corner to safety is very small, with success. There's guys that have done it, but it really wasn't what you want. And we'll see if he can do that. James has got a good feel for football, very knowledgeable, so that will help him in that transition. He's still going to play some corner for us, too.
Vic, you've been around a lot of quarterbacks and head coaches in your career.
A lot of quarterbacks?
Quarterbacks and head coaches in your career. Being around Jalen and Nick as long as you have, what have you learned about them as leaders in terms of leading the team?
It's really too early to tell. What I do know is, from a player standpoint, you can't be a leader unless you're playing up to your abilities. So if you're playing up to your abilities, then you can be a leader if you're working hard enough and guys see it. If a guy that's not playing up to his abilities, kind of lazy, nobody's going to listen to him. So And as far as Nick goes, he's a proven winning coach in the league. And, I think he does a great job with the team.
Jay, how has James handled everything behind it?
What's that?
In terms of Bradbury's case, how has he handled it behind the scenes, going from a longtime starter, second-team All-Pro, to the role that he's in right now?
He's been great. He's eager to learn. He's embraced the possibilities of it, and he's been great.
Has Nick been much of a presence in the defensive meeting rooms, and if so, what's been the benefit?
I missed the first part.
Has Nick been much of a presence in the defensive meeting rooms, and if so, what's been the benefit of it?
Yeah, he comes into our staff meeting some, and we review practice with him. He was in some of our team defensive meetings and OTAs. We've only been here one day. He hadn't been there yet, but it's been great.
Jalen Hurts talked about how he was talking to Jonathan Gannon when he was the defensive coordinator here about how to help him better prepare as an offensive quarterback. Have you developed any sort of relationship with Jalen along those lines?
A little bit, not along those lines yet, but we have developed the relationship to where I think he would feel very comfortable in doing that.
If I could ask, is there a position or position group where you think you have the most competition, the stiffest competition?
Corner, obviously, and inside linebacker, obviously. Those are the two main ones, because up front, even at the edge players, we may be able to roll guys some.
If I could ask you about
Wade is being at the crossroads of his career, do you say that to him after what he went through last year? What do you think he needs?
Yeah, to a degree, yeah. He was a guy that had a really good career going. It wasn't that way last year for whatever reason. So yeah, he's somewhat at a crossroads. Yeah.
It's like a question about that competition inside linebacker. What are you seeing from Nakobe?
Hey, can we do something about the noise here or what?
The competition inside linebacker. What are you
Outside?
seeing? Inside. Nakobe, Zach Bond, Devin White. What are you seeing from that competition so far?
Yeah. Well, we've only yesterday was our first day where we did any 11-on-11 work, which is really the true teller when you're evaluating defensive players, because the most fundamental thing you have to do on defense is figure out if it's a run or a pass. And, everything was a pass in the spring. So yesterday was one day of that. But I like Zach. He's a guy that's played very little inside linebacker in his career. We think he can do it. Obviously, Devin's had a career where he has done it. Nakobe, has shown that he can do it in college. Really hadn't had the opportunity to do it here because his first year he's behind two good players, and last year he was injured. Same thing with Trotter, Ben, Orn. They're all in the mix, really.
All right, there's defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. A lot of he hasn't done it before, but we're going to try.
A lot of that.
Yeah, but it's going to be a new look defense.
His candor's good, though.
Oh, I love him, man.
His candor. You can tell he answers, and he answers quickly, and he.
Hey, how was Nick in the defensive meeting room?
Yeah, he's been there.
He's been there.
He's been there.
All right, I have time to give away one more $50 Wendy's gift card.
Let's
Connor, what number?
2.
Call number 2 to the contest line, 215-263-0975. We'll win our final $50 Wendy's gift card for the day for a whole new way to nug. Try Wendy's new Saucy Nugs today, open till midnight or later at participating U.S. Wendy's. Hours may vary by location. Call number 2, 215-263-0975. We have Bob Cooney coming up next. I see Ray Dunn. I don't know if it's Bill or Amy. Do we know who's doing the show? Amy is doing the show. I have not seen Amy yet today. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Connor. So make sure you're listening to the Midday Show coming your way next. We'll be back at it tomorrow on a Payday Fanatic Friday, Johnny.
That's always a little bit better. And Phil's getting back into town, too, so we shall see.
Yeah, hopefully things turn around.
Trade deadline now going to be 5 days away tomorrow.
That's going to be a lot of fun. We're getting close to it. Everybody have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.